Good morning. Good afternoon. Good evening, folks. It's Tournament Tuesday. It's been a while. It's good to see you guys. Thanks for stopping by today and hanging out with me for a couple hours of our day. We're going to just get right into it. Let's open some packs. I got some good news. Some good news and some bad news. Well, no, not bad news, but we're going to open 18 packs with this team. Perhaps if the game doesn't crash on me. Did anybody notice the good news for big team tournaments this past week? I'm sure you have. Good evening. It's evening somewhere, I'm sure. Let's see. We'll take a Francisco Lindor from 2016 Hardware Heroes. That's a gold card. And a Leon Cadore and a Mitchell. What is this pack? Goodness gracious. That's a good pack. We're going to screenshot that one because it's a pretty... Oh, I'm playing in Steam now, so... Triple gold, guys. We're off to a good start. Something big today. We're going to get something big today. Is it? No, it's not a mustache. So, for anybody who didn't notice, they adjusted the way... Leon Roberts is an interesting silver card. This is not a silver team, sadly. The way that they formulate the data for statistics on the tournaments now, and so I am able to do 128, and as far as I can tell, 256 team tournaments as well. So, my channel has been in retirement for, well, a couple months. But it's going to come back. We're going to start doing the weekly tournaments again on my channel, which will be fun. I really enjoyed doing that when I could, and then all the weekly tournaments went to 128 teams, and I just couldn't do it anymore. But they're coming back. That said, it's going to be a couple weeks. I got to redo the spreadsheets for that, and also I'm going to wait until the Travelers season is over. Yeah, we'll get back into Sporers. We'll get back into... I love some of the... we're going to be focusing on, like, the era tournaments. So, you got the Silver Snapshots on Thursdays now, which is pretty fun. It was my favorite format last year, stuff like that. That'll be over on my channel. We'll start doing Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, about an hour a day. But I'm waiting 3 more weeks. That's going to start in 3 weeks. Because I got to be honest, guys, I'm out in 95-degree heat till 11 o'clock at night, and I just... am wiped by the time I'm done. Yeah, the defense era on Saturdays is fun, and it's so it's pretty cool. We got that triple gold pack, and that's about it so far. We did get a Lance Lynn, it looked like. You still see 110. Make sure you download. Yeah, make sure you download the update for it, because mine are not paginated anymore. What was what? Please repeat. So we're gonna do 128 team tournaments. That'll be, like I said, over on my channel. I miss being on my channel. It's fun. I get to say some things on my channel that I don't necessarily get to say over here. But also, I miss seeing you guys every day. But it's been busy for this summer. For all the weekly tournaments, is what we're going to be doing. And our last pack. This is it. I turned in some collections to get all these packs today. Not a lot of winning going on. I'm going to be honest, guys. It was a gold pack, and we got 3 golds. Not as impressive since 2 of them are live, and it was, in fact, a gold pack. And also, this guy's a Toronto Blue Jay now. But Buzz Arlett is team mission number 2, Philadelphia, and Party Like it's $18.99. 2 collections I don't have completed. That's a pretty good value card there. 85 power and gold? Interesting. Interesting looking card. I did take basically the 2 weeks off. I've been entering the daily historical just to get the data on it. But for the most part, I've had some people message me saying, hey, what are you seeing in bronze for this and that and this and that? And all I've been doing the last couple weeks is just getting into the daily historical. I've taken Perfect Team off for a little bit. I've been focusing on my the OHBL Cubs and getting some relaxation from spreadsheets. But we're back. Spreadsheets. Today is daily historical iron. This is a fun format that, we'll see how long these numbers work for. I've heard some rumblings that people are trying to get this to go to one of the era formats. But we'll see if that happens. I don't know if that's going to happen or not. But we'll see. If it does, then we'll adjust as necessary. You'll notice The screen is busy. I'm still finishing up formatting of some of this stuff, but the batter meta is over here now. I separated the starting and relief pitchers, and you'll notice an old friend's going to be back down in this area at some point today. I hope. We'll see. Start with the catchers. There were only 9 qualifiers. You think you're in this tournament? It's a daily tournament, so you finally got into grinding bronze tourneys. Bronze is something, man. It's definitely something. Stop reminding you about Barrios being a Blue Jay. I'm sorry. Your bronze league has been brutal since the last stream. My bad. But anyway, Zach Taylor came in at number 9. I'm going to be honest with you guys. There aren't a lot of catchers that are terribly useful here in the Iron Historical. I don't believe Zach Taylor is one of them. For those of you who missed it last week, we have this new thing for catchers, CRS. I call it catcher runs saved. And what it is let's go over here. I look at the overall league ERA, and then I look at the catchers earned run average for each individual catcher. Now, these are only catchers who are only catchers. These are not catchers who have first base ratings or outfield ratings or anything like that, because they mess up my catcher ERA stats and my innings played stats. So I ignore them, and they will have a 0 as we go through the list. I don't think there are any on this list today, though. And what I do is I look at the catcher's ERA over the league ERA, and then over the course of a season, which may be adjusted down to a series, because right now it's 1,458 innings, which is 162 games, I think, if I did my math right. And a negative is good here. So a negative 28.31 is good for Glenn Borgman. A 963 for Rowdy Elliott is bad. Let's just be very clear about that. That means over a 162 game season, Rowdy Elliott will let up 963 more runs than your average catcher. That's in 9 innings of work. So I wouldn't go by that or use that number for anything at all. But it's, a fun number. So Zach Taylor has a catcher run scored value of 51.2. That is bad. That is not good. He is 9th out of 9 catchers, which actually gives him a -1 overall value, because what I do for catchers is I subtract their catcher's run saved from their offense and their defense and end up with a -1.97. Zach Taylor, not a great defensive catcher. Offensively, also not a great offensive catcher, which is interesting to me because he has this really high avoid Ks, but his batting average ball and play number is not great. And so I don't think Zach Taylor is a viable catcher here in Iron Historical Daily. I really don't. The 38 catcher ability is bad. The 46 catcher defense isn't great. The catcher arm doesn't make up for anything. And so sadly, our early years saved by the bell, Zach Taylor is not going to be useful. He's your number 9 rated catcher. Number 8 is Sal Butera, who ranks 7th offensively, 6th defensively, has a catcher run save value of 16, which is not great, but not terrible either. It's, kind of, I would call anything between like 15 and -15 to be kind of league average-ish. You're letting up an extra run as a catcher every, 10, 20 games or so at that point. And so Sal Butera comes in at number 8, 32nd offensively. I didn't even talk about the actual stats for Zach Taylor. I don't think I really need to, but Butera is 8th in average, 2nd in on-base percentage, so that's nice. I also changed the colors here. Hopefully they're a little bit less blinding for you. You cannot state how badly you want Pickles Dillhofer to be the best catcher in the format just because of the 80 grade name. That's fair. That is absolutely fair. We do not have Pickles Dillhofer qualifying right now, sadly. 311 slugging percentage is 8th among catchers. OPS is 7th. Weighted on base average, it's been a while, so I'm trying to get back into the groove here, is 6th. 7th in home runs. Doesn't score a lot of runs. Doesn't generate a lot of runs batted in. Doesn't ground into a ton of double plays, even though he's a ground ball hitter with 4 speed and 6 steal. He's 4th in double plays per 600. 6th in runs created, 7th in WAR. However, again, with that 30 catcher ability, the 73 catcher arm is good, but I think the 30 catcher ability keeps Butera from being truly valuable. He doesn't really provide enough offense for me to overlook the fact that he is 6th in defensive value and 7th in CRS value. And so I think we'll just move on from him. Number 7 is Sally Vars, who is 8th in catcher runs saved. 4th in defensive value, however. fourth in offense. So you're getting a little bit of offense here out of Salivars, especially against left-handed pitching. So 71 power. He's number 2 in home runs. How many? He has not been caught stealing yet. That's why there was a number there. It was red. I just went over that Madont, but I'll go over it briefly again. It's basically, so catcher's run saved is the catcher's ERA, based off of the league ERA and how many extra runs or how many runs they will save as a catcher or have saved as a catcher over the course of a full season of baseball. Again, I'm thinking about pulling it down to like 63 innings as opposed to 1,458 innings, just because that's like a series instead, which I think makes a lot more sense for the format, but that's something that I'm still trying to decide on. So for now, it's for a whole season. Yvarz is number 2 in home runs among catchers, has achieved 1 stolen base and did not get caught. So the better D, the more CRS. The better catcher ability, the more CRS, yeah. Basically, and arm and catcher rating factor into that as well, because that's always going to factor into how well the pitcher pitches, but catcher ability is probably the big one that's going to help that out, because it's going to affect your strikeout to walk ratio for your pitchers. He is 4th in offensive value, but 9th in on-base percentage and batting average. All of his offensive value is coming out of the fact that he hits almost 20 home runs per 600 plate appearances. His slugging is 360. His OPS is 652, which is 6th, and his weighted on-base average is still below 300. So for a guy who's a mediocre at best catcher, you're getting an okay weighted on-base average. Decent runs created is 5th, middle of the pack there. So you take what you can get. 3rd in runs and 3rd in RBIs for Sal Yvarz. 2nd most used catcher over the last 2.5 weeks. Number 6 is Tom Satriano. He's your 7th most used catcher over the course of the last couple of weeks. 3rd in batting average, 1st in on-base percentage, but 7th in slugging, 9th in home runs, 5th in OPS, and 3rd in weighted on-base average. Overall coming out 6th in offensive value, even though he's number 2 in steals, number 1 in walks as well. 8th in runs, 8th in RBIs, 8th in ground into double plays. That is backwards. I have to fix that. Hold on 1 second. Go over here. Fixed. That makes more sense. 2nd in ground and double plays, so 2nd in double play avoidance. 3rd in runs created and 5th in WAR over the course of the last couple weeks for Satriano. In catcher's runs saved, he does have a first base and a third base rating, so keep that in mind. He's ranking 8th defensively at catcher. So when you look at this, keep in mind that this is not subtracting his negative defense value, because I don't calculate it for guys who have positions other than catcher, because it just messes up numbers. No, Euchre did not qualify. Does it matter how you get your card packs, buying, Twitch, or winning in tournaments? Yes, all the same exact odds. I think he's, middle of the pack. I like what Satriano brings because he gives you a little bit of offense. I'm not sold on him being a starter, but the nice thing is, as a backup, you can back up your first baseman and third baseman, sort of. And so I think that he's not a bad option as a backup catcher. I just don't think I want him starting every single day. Number 5 is Tyler Houston, who has 60 power versus lefties, 59 power versus righties. Not big splits here. It's 10 points of avoid K, but 7 points split back towards the eye. You got 8 points of gap and 3 points of contact for Tyler Houston. And let's be honest, all of these catchers here in these tournaments have serious warts. This guy gives some offense, though. 5th in average, 7th in on-base percentage, 2nd in slugging and OPS, 4th in weighted on-base average, and 2nd. Give me my mouse, cat. In runs created per 600. 2nd in runs, 2nd in RBIs. Grounds into the least amount of double plays. Is 3rd in home runs, 3rd in steals. So if you're just looking for offense out of your catcher, Tyler Houston might not be a bad option. He's your 5th most used catcher right now, but he's providing some pretty solid offense for people there. Doesn't Satriano play a mean guitar? Yeah, Joe. Surfing with the alien, maybe. Never buy cards, only point sometimes when a good sale. Fair enough. Buying cards is better than buying packs. You know, some people just enjoy building their team from packs. That was me for a really long time. I have one team that I build by buying cards right now. All the other teams, the main teams, get built by packs, but the tournament teams for them get built by buying the cards for the tournament. So number 4 is Bob Davis. Very good at sacrifice bunting. He is your number 1 offensive value catcher. However, keep in mind that he's got pretty heavy splits versus lefties, so I think you're seeing a pretty heavy platoon here for Bob Davis because his numbers versus ratings versus righties don't look all that great to me. Defensively, he's grading out 5th, 6th in catcher's run save, but he's 2nd in average, 5th in on-base percentage, number 1 in slugging OPS and weighted on-base average for Bob Davis. 18.45 home runs is number 1, 5th in walks, number 1 in runs, number 1 in RBIs, number 1 in runs created, and number 1 in WAR as a catcher for Bob Davis. Serious offensive value here with mediocre defensive value for Bob Davis. Only 618 plate appearances as well, so just something to keep in mind. I think if you can platoon him, he's really a straight platoon kind of candidate because you're getting a lot more out of him versus lefties than you do versus righties. I do complete missions for packs as well, and so my main team that I'm building, I buy the cards to complete the missions, but we're still way behind on that. You save points to finish off collections mostly completed by packs. Fair enough. From tournaments, yeah, that's fair enough. That's kind of what I do on the other teams as well. So yeah, there we go. But yeah, there's Bob Davis. Serious offense, mediocre defense from Bob Davis. Number 3 is a guy who I think is a pretty solid option at catcher here in Iron. I actually like him a little bit better than Ivar's. You're getting a little bit better. This is our first negative catcher run saved value, which is good. He's 2nd among catchers and catchers run saved. 2.5, so tied for 2nd in overall defensive value. We'll see the guy who is tied for 2nd with him next. 31.46 offensive value, so he's 8th out of 9 in offensive value is Moberg, which is a little surprising to me, but you look at his profile, it's really similar to that of Zach Taylor, right? Coming in at number 9. You got the high avoid Ks with the okay but not great contact, which is keeping his batting average and balls in play down. No power to speak of, really no gap power at all, so you're not getting any extra base hits, and no walks either, so you're going to have a pretty low on-base percentage, but he is number 1 in batting average and number 1 in steals among catchers with 7 steals per 600. So he provides a little bit of offensive value, so don't be totally thrown off by the low runs created, which is 58.04, because I think a batting average dependent runs created is helpful. The OPS is really low. 639 OPS, 289 weighted on base average are both pretty low. So definitely slightly below average offense for Moberg. Do I get drops as a presenter? I do, as long as I'm paying attention and take the pack. I didn't get them last time, and I haven't gotten one this time. So, and the reason I get the drops as a presenter is because I have the Twitch stream up on my other monitor. So I'm actually technically logged into the Twitch stream as well. And so Moberg comes in at number 3. Pretty strong defensive catcher. It is a 54 catcher ability, so it's not great. I mean, we're not talking Austin Hedges here or anything, guys, but he's better than some of the other catchers out there. Decent catcher arm, decent catcher rating, and that negative 28.03 catcher run save value is 2nd among all of these catchers. He comes in at number 3. Number 2 is Mickey O'Neill, who is our guy who's tied with Moberg for 2nd. Different stuff here, though. 67 arm, 52 catcher ability. So it's 2 points less of catcher ability, 3 points more of arm, and their catcher rating, I believe, is exactly the same for Mickey O'Neill. He's coming in 3rd offensively and tied for 2nd, and 3rd in catcher's run saved. I kind of like this card. You've got no splits to speak of. He can play against lefties and righties. Decent defense. He's given good offense and good defense. The ratings look gross, but again, all of them do. 327 on base percentage, a 672 OPS, and a 304 weighted on base average for Mickey O'Neill over 2,300 total plate appearances. Doesn't steal any bases, 10 or so home runs for him, puts him 4th out of 9 qualifying catchers, and 4th in strikeouts and 3rd in walks as well. 4th in runs created, so good offense, good defense. What's there to say about Mickey O'Neill? I think he's an interesting option here. This is Iron Historical Daily. Vicarious 18. What's the sample size? Johan is doing fantastic in silver. Not sure. Iron catchers are kind of interchangeable. I think that's fair. And we'll see number 1 here in just a second. Have any of these catchers been lefty batting yet? I don't believe so. I think they're all right-handed so far. Yes. Number 1 is also right-handed. It's Glenn Borgman. Glenn Borgman is your number 1 rated defensive catcher here in the format with a 71 catcher ability, which is light years ahead of everybody else. A 69 defense rating at catcher, a 58 catcher arm, and 5th offensively. Negative 28.31 catchers runs saved for Glenn Borgman is solid. That is number 1 among all catchers. 7th in batting average, 6th in on-base percentage, 5th in slugging, 660 OPS, just below a 300 weighted on-base average for Borgman and a pretty large sample size of 9,553. More than twice what Sal Uvar's got and almost 3 times as much as what Mo Berg has. He's 5th in home runs. Stolen bases are kind of a whatever stat for catcher here in Iron. 7th in strikeouts, 4th in walks, 4th in runs, 5th in RBIs, 7th in runs created. So it's not a lot of runs created, but it's a decent amount of runs saved for Glenn Borgman. Was Satriano a lefty? Oh, I was looking at the throws. Yeah. So Houston and Satriano were both lefties. I was looking over here because, you know, throwing and hitting are the same thing. Also, Mo Berg. So this means he's in so remember our proven winner alert that we were using that wasn't on the last stream because I hadn't gotten the spreadsheet up to full functionality. That's what this is. So this means he's in the top 20 out of, so let's go over that real quick too. So I don't really want to show you that because it's a spoiler, but I look at all the tournaments that people are in. I look at the teams that win, the teams that go to the semifinals, quarterfinals, stuff like that, and track all the players who do it. That's all. It's like 7 of their own sheets down here. And so what they get is they get 6 points for winning this tournament, 5 points for being a finalist, 4 points for the semifinals, 3 points for quarterfinals, 2 points, 1 point. So I look at all the appearances that they have. And the top 100 guys go into a pool of their points and their reward percentage. So these numbers down here mean that they are in the top 20 of points percentage. So points percentage just looks at, hey, if he went to round 2, then he gets 1 point out of 6, which is 18% of his points or something like that. Whereas if he goes to round 4, he gets like 66% or whatever. And so it all averages out to that. And the reward percentage is how often they end up in the rewards. So for this tournament, that goes to the quarterfinals. So anybody who goes to the quarterfinals gets a reward percentage. And so Mo Berg is the only catcher to qualify in the top 20 of both point percentage and reward percentage in this tournament. Now, keep in mind, this is 9 tournaments worth of data right now. It's not a huge sample size. On points percentage and reward percentage right now. So just keep that in mind. But we do have some guys like Borgman who has a ton of appearances. And so he's probably getting filtered down out of that. I do think Borgman is a number 1 here. I think that Borgman and Berg are both interesting candidates. I like the O'Neill card as well. I really think if I was gonna say one catcher to go with here, it'd probably be Borgman, just because he does give you a little bit of offense with his defense. I think that Berg's offense is just it's wrapped up a little bit in the steals. He's getting a little bit of bonus for the steals and still coming out 8th in offense. He's just not giving a ton of offense. He's decent defensively. He runs the bases well, and for whatever reason, the teams that are using him are doing well. I don't believe this is predictive, so don't take these numbers as predictive. It's just a fun calculation that I do and that I enjoy. And so a guy like Borgman, obviously, who gets used a ton, is at a disadvantage when you're talking about trying to get onto that list. Just because if he's on every team, then obviously only half the teams make it even to round 2. So there you go. So let's see. So you have to go back many decades to find a lefty throwing catcher that received any. Yeah, that's fair. So can you think of a catcher from way back then that throws left? I can't think of one off my head. Squires threw left. I would have to do some research on that, and I'm not going to do it on stream. No catcher throws left in the collection. That's fair, Carly Karkovice. Those are your catchers. Moving on to... I'm just going to throw Borgman in there. He's already in there, I think. But First baseman, we had 20 qualifying first basemen. I'm not going to go through all 20, but we'll start at number 10. Jake Bauers comes in at number 10. He's grading out 9th offensively, 13th defensively. His catcher run save value is 0. I'm funny. 374 on base percentage has him 3rd among first basemen, which is nice. The stolen bases, he's 5th among first basemen. Number 1 in walks among first basemen as well. It's a very walk heavy on base percentage, and he provides a little bit of base running to go along with it. So it's not one of those completely empty high walk on base percentages. Splits versus righties, and we didn't talk about that too much, but basically 70+% of the pitchers in the format right now are right-handed. And so, which is a little surprising to me because, not surprising actually, it's a little surprising to me to see 63% of the hitters be right-handed. So I'm surprised there's not a little bit more of a left-handed swing going on the hitters. But, you know, sometimes it's the pitchers catching up to the hitters or the hitters catching up to the pitchers, or there's just no good options, which is a possibility here as well. Squires only played games at catcher but did throw left. Interesting. Squires played 2 catcher. Go. Let's see. What else did I miss here? Majority of hitters are right means majority of catchers will throw right, which is fair. There have been a few that got minor play. Okay, we're still talking about left-handed catchers, so I'll let you guys chat about that because I'm not an expert on that. Bauers does split versus righties pretty well. You got 16 points of gap, 8 points of power, 16 points of eye. The avoid K and the contact are negligible, so that's keeping his batting average down. He's actually 19th out of 20 in batting average right now, but right in the middle of the pack in home runs. I think he does have left field to go along with his first base ability as well. We might see him on the left field list. I don't know. Grades out 13th out of 20 defensively. I think there's probably better options out there than Bauers, but we'll see as we go through the list. I think he's a pretty solid option versus right-handed pitching. Number 9 is Terry Francona, who's coming in 4th defensively, 13th offensively. Another guy who splits a little bit versus righties. He does bat left-handed. And so 4th in batting average here, 2nd in slugging percentage among first basemen, even though he only hits 8 home runs. So it's a lot of doubles. This is a very double-heavy slugging and OPS for Terry Francona. He's 10th out of 20 in runs created per 600 while providing some semblance of defense at the first base position as well. 64 contact versus 57 versus lefties. He got 18 points of gap power and 16 points of avoid K versus righties as well, which is good for the format right now. Terry Francona comes in at number 9. Number 8 is Ray Sanders, who's dropping the number 10 offensive value and the number 8 defensive value here. 5.41 defensive points for him. 39.02 offensive value, 17th in batting average, but 5th in on-base percentage. 9th. 345 weighted on base average. This is why I don't get paid a lot of money. Walks, he's 2nd. Stolen bases, he's 12th. Home runs, he's 11th, middle of the pack. 11th in runs, 17th in RBIs, 13th overall in runs created per 600, while being a pretty okay defensive player. The 2.3 WAR that he's giving you is 10th, while Francona's 2.34 is 9th. You know, it kind of is, whoops. Kind of is what it is there. He comes in at number 8. Pretty interchangeable. I think they're similar, a little bit more home run power for Sanders, a little bit more batting average and doubles for Francona. Defense is atrocious for everybody here in Iron Historical. It's ironic how Terry Francona is in this historical Iron Tourney. Is currently a manager for the Indians. Yeah, and good luck to him as he gets over his hip surgery as well. I like Terry Francona. Number 7 is Orestes Destrade. Number 6 offensively, number 10 defensively. Not good defensive numbers here for Destrade. 24 range, 76 inches tall though, which helps him out at first base. He's one of the taller guys. I think 78 is the tallest guy. We'll see as we go through the list. 40 first base rating. They're all kind of a 16 error rating is bad. But he gets a little bit of bonus for being kind of tall, which is important to out-of-the-park baseball first baseman. He's 5th in OPS and 5th in weighted on base average, 6th in walks, 2nd in home runs, so 22. I think he's the first guy we've seen with over 20 home runs per 600 so far on our list, but 14th in average and on-base percentage. It's really power is what you're getting from Destrade, and that's about it. 5th in runs and 5th in RBIs per 600 plate appearances, but still 12th in runs created per 1,600. Part of that is that he doesn't run. Really a negative run value to me. 9 speed, 9 steals, 16 base running with no sack bunt, no bunt for a hit. And his average and on-base percentage are both pretty low for a position that you want to get a lot of offense out of. So it's really a home run or bust for Destrade is what you're getting. He's at number 7. Number 6 is Lance Negron, who's grading out 4th offensively and 6th defensively. So at 75 inches with a 24 error rating. Again, no lack of really bad defenders at first base at this level. 51 first base rating, 30 range. He is number 1 in RBIs, number 8 in runs created, 4th in weighted on base average, 3rd in OPS, number 1 in slugging, 3rd in home runs, 21.83 home runs for Lance Negron. Doesn't run the bases. Numbers are even worse than Destrade. Those are really, really, really bad base running numbers for Negron, so don't expect to get anything out of him. But he's a really interesting candidate for a designated hitter to me. We'll look at the hitter numbers at the end. We'll breeze through them when we get there. But he comes in at number 6 at first base. Again, 75 inches, 24 error. There's just not a lot of defense here at first base. I like this Negron card in the format, though. Ben Paulsen comes in at number 5, grading out 8th offensively, 3rd defensively, 15th and 14th in average on base percentage, but he does hit bombs, 20 home runs per 600. He's 4th, 3rd in slugging, 4th in OPS, and 6th in weighted on base average at a 348, which is pretty solid. 8th in walks, 15th in strikeouts. Doesn't really run the bases, although he's better than both the last 2 guys we saw. 7th in runs, 7th in RBI, 6th in RBIs, and 6th in runs created for you guys with a 2.4 WAR for Ben Paulsen at first base. Also plays some left field, which is something Negron and Destrade do not do. So interesting there. The splits are pretty heavy towards right-handed pitching. So useful splits for Ben Paulsen. I think the biggest reason for no left-handed catcher is they would never be able to throw out a runner stealing third. That's fair. That's a good point. I have to say Negron has been a great backup first base and perfect draft too. I think that's fair. I like the Negron card so far. Steve Balboni comes in at number 4. I was very afraid that he wasn't going to make the list today, but people do like this card. He's the 3rd most used. Destrade was number 1. We didn't talk about that when we were there. Balboni splits versus lefties. It's slight. Although 8 points of eye is moderate and 11 points of power is pretty significant in my opinion. It's only 2 points of avoid K, 3 points of gap, and 3 points of contact, but the 11 points of power is a pretty significant difference. 95 power versus lefties. So a quarter of the time, you're going to have a guy hitting 30 home runs per 600 plate appearances in your lineup. You know, with a 230 batting average, it's not great. 344 on-base percentage is okay. He's 3rd in walks. But his batting average is super low. Also doesn't run. Maybe the worst run ratings that we've seen so far. 5th in slugging, 8th in OPS, and 7th in weighted on base average. He related to Phil and Joe Negron. That's a good question. I'm not sure. I'd have to research that. 3rd in runs, 2nd in RBIs, 9th in runs created for Balboni. Again, that batting average holding that runs created number down just a little bit. But it's home run or bust. Home run, walk or bust, I guess. And when he walks, he's not doing you any favors on the bases. So just keep that in mind. He is grading out 2nd offensively and grading out 5th defensively with his 75 inches of height, 27 error rating, and a decent 4-iron historical range rating of 28. Balboni comes in at number 4. Number 3 is Hap Myers, who's your number 2 most used first baseman. Slight split in contact and avoid Ks versus lefties. But this is a guy who can run. This is our first guy who can run. He's still grading out 7th offensively. The only guy we've seen so far scoring more than 100 runs per 600 plate appearances. 80 steals with an 85% stolen base percentage is pretty darn spectacular. Hap Myers is a guy who, when he gets on base, which a 354 clip isn't awful. It's not elite at first base, but it's not awful. And with no catchers in the format who can throw him out, this is a guy who's just going to run roughshod around your bases. 12th in weighted on base average, though, and 2nd in runs created at 91.33. This is some pretty solid offense, considering what he gives you. I know that it's not super power. It's not a ton of power, and he's going to need some help creating those runs. But I mean, it's always useful to have a high on-base percentage base runner in your lineup somewhere, right? No one steals in MLB anymore anyway. It's coming back a little bit. Check out, who's the guy for the Padres that just scored like 28 or stole like 36 bases in a row to start his career or something? I forget his name off the top of my head right now. Hat Myers is also in the top 20 in points percentage at 21.21. I don't know if I think he's the only one on the first base list so far to end up in the top 20 of that. And so, no, it wasn't Grisham and it wasn't Cronenworth. It was, hold on. Padres base stealer record. Maybe it wasn't for the Padres. I forget his name. I don't think it was Cronenworth. I forget. I'll have to look it up sometime. Yeah, LeCastro. It was LeCastro for the D-backs. Yeah, that's who I'm thinking of. National League West. I had the right division, right? So Myers comes in at number 3. Sorry, I didn't mean to punch you guys in the face there. Number 2 is Jerry Freeman. Grading out number 1 offensively in 613 plate appearances. However, grading out number 18 defensively. And I really don't think these offensive numbers are going to hold up for Jerry Freeman. This is a small sample size alert on Jerry Freeman. 336, 407 on base percentage, 852 OPS, 379 weighted on base average with 36 steals per 600. Now, with that said, he's got a decent eye avoid K combination versus righties with a solid contact of 61. Is a ground ball hitter with speed in a format that simply doesn't have any defense. So perhaps these numbers will hold up a little bit. This is 1908 Jerry Freeman. I don't think, maybe Freddie's grandfather. But I really don't think they hold up this high. But I think he can be effective just because of the way the pitchers are in this format and the fact that there really isn't a lot of defense. Like, you're not going to see the same defense that you're going to see from the live cards right now in the format, even at second base, shortstop, and stuff like that. You'll see that as we go through the list. He's number 2 in steals, number 2 in runs, number 1 in runs created at 108.84 per 600 plate appearances, and 7.83 ground into double plays is number 2 among first basemen. Number 1 offensively, just doesn't provide any defense whatsoever. Comes in at number 2. Number 1, I don't know, John Mabry. Let's ignore John Mabry. 980 plate appearances. Okay, we're going to talk about him just because he's not going to show up anywhere else. He doesn't have enough plate appearances to show up in right field, so we're not going to see him there. He is grading out 12th offensively among first basemen, 10th in weighted on base average, solid average and on base percentage for Mabry with splits versus right-handed pitching. 76 inches tall, a 73 range with an 88 first base rating is giving him a lot of value at first base. But first base isn't a place where we value defense super high. He's 19th in runs, 14th in runs created. I think I just need more offense out of my first baseman. But if you're going for a straight defense team, Mabry is pretty clearly the best option defensively at first base. Pinch hitter extraordinaire. Yeah, and the fact that he plays right field, maybe as a backup / defensive sub / pinch hitter versus righties for you on your bench, but he's a straight bench player to me. He's not really a utility guy, more of a straight backup first baseman, right fielder / defensive sub at first base, perhaps. Does Walter Hulk show up? Let's check. Hulk did not qualify. Let's find him. See what we have on him. Hulk. Well, he didn't show up at first base. Maybe he'll show up somewhere else. Was he on that list? Oh, he is. He's right here. 6th in batting average, 19th in on-base percentage, 8th in slugging, 9th in home runs, and 6th in steals. 9 steals. Decent looking card. Let's see where he fell on the list here. Let's go here. Hopkins at 11, Thompson at 12. Thompson is a top 20 in points percentage and reward percentage. 13 is Rocco. 14th is Vance Diggers. Joe Strip at 15. Where is Hulk? Is not good defensively, apparently. 73 inches, 35 error, 38, and still only showing up 17th offensively overall. He is 6th in batting average, 9th in home runs, 15th in runs created, and 17th in weighted on base average for Walter Hulk, which is the heaviest weighting that goes into your offensive value for these guys. So the weighted on base average is. And so... but honestly, not a bad looking offensive card. I'm a little surprised to see the weighted on base average that low. The lack of walks is hurting a little bit, but I'm a little surprised to see it that low. Again, only 1,500 plate appearances, so some of them are, you know, a little bit of a small sample size. 19 was Randy Bass and 20 was Scott Thompson. Let's check out this one. Tommy Thompson, who is grading out 5th offensively, but 20th defensively because he's shorter than me. Plays all the outfield positions. This is the only place he's going to show up because there's not enough for him to show up anywhere else, but 15 home runs, 7 steals, 4th in on-base percentage, 3rd in weighted on-base average, an 80 avoid K with a 50 contact and a 61 I versus righties. I think he can play versus righties. I think this is a solid option as a utility kind of first baseman slash fill in wherever you can't fill your outfield. That's probably where kind of this is coming from, is that he's an interesting offensive option that plays multiple defensive positions that allow you to keep other guys rested. So he comes in at number 12. Moving on to the second baseman. Basically describing Mabry's actual career. Yeah, that's fair. Right. Yep, that's fair too. We're still talking catcher defense. Man, you guys love your catcher defense. You use them in your standard Iron League. Interesting. Neil Finn comes in at number 10. We had 10 qualifying second basemen here, so all 10 qualifiers showed up on the list. Not a lot of options here at second base. Neil Finn is 8th offensively, 8th defensively, doesn't do anything particularly well. 4th in batting average, though, among second basemen. 7th in slugging OPS and weighted on base average, while not being a very good defensive player. 43 range, 54 error, 79 turn double play, 48 second base rating. Doesn't really run the bases, only 4 steals per 600. But you can probably say most of these things about everybody on this list. So let's see who we like better. Neil Finn comes in at number 10. Number 9 is Fresco Thompson. Even worse defensively. Not by much. It's really just a turn double play and second base rating for Thompson. Only plays second base. Did Finn only play second base? Finn does only play second base. So splits a little bit towards lefties in contact and avoid K and I and power. A little bit more gap power versus righties for Fresco Thompson, though. He is 5th offensively out of 10. 10th defensively out of 10. Number 1 in runs scored. Can run the bases, 25 steals with an 83% stolen base percentage. Both of those are pretty solid numbers for Fresco Thompson, even with a 57 speed. 5th in average, 6th in on-base percentage, 6th in slugging. 317 weighted on-base average is 5th among second basemen. However, I want a little bit more defense out of my second baseman. He comes in at number 9. Chad Faunville comes in at number 8. Are you supposed to look for catcher defense or catcher ability? Catcher ability is going to affect the strikeout to walk ratio for your pitchers, so it affects all of your pitchers. Who's the best defensive iron catcher in the game? Hedges isn't in iron. Hedges is in bronze. Jeff Mathis or Ali Sanchez? Yeah, I agree. It's Jeff Mathis, but Ali Sanchez gives a little bit of offense. And have you got a little bit? When I say a little bit of offense, I mean a little bit. Sanchez, Mathis comes in at 93, 92, 68. Yeah, they're both Mathis and Sanchez are pretty good defensively at iron. Sadly, not available for this format. Chad Faunville, 3rd in runs. Only 8 double plays per 600 for Faunville, which is pretty solid. That's over 600 plate appearances. Just doesn't create extra outs, which is really nice. 6th in runs created, 7th in WAR. Again, that's out of 10, so not too many guys getting picked up here. Does run the bases, 45 steals per 600, but only a 75% stolen base percentage for him. 9th out of 10 in weighted on base average. But second in average and 4th in on base percentage to go along with his base running is not bad, I don't think. Defensively, he's 6th out of 10 second baseman here and plays some left field, some shortstop, some second base. So maybe an interesting option for a utility player on the infield / outfield. Do you want him to start? I don't know. We'll see what kind of defense combined with offense we have higher up on the list. He's I think he's usable. I think it's a usable card at this point. I don't know that it's a must use though. Number 7 is Brent Abernathy, who has almost no splits to speak of, but that doesn't mean his numbers are very good. He's the 10th rated offensive second baseman in the format. 6th in average, 9th in on-base percentage, 10th in OPS and weighted on-base average, while being 8th in slugging. Just under 1 home run per 600 plate appearances, because he might hit one by accident. 21 steals is okay. You know, he's a solid, you know, middle of the pack base runner at second base, 2nd in strikeouts, 8th in walks, which is holding his on-base percentage down just a little bit. Not that a 323 is the worst on-base percentage we'll ever see out of a second baseman in any format. 8th in runs and RBIs and 9th in runs created for Brent Abernathy. He does play some defense, decent range, decent turn double play. The 54 error rating isn't great, but a 65 second base rating is okay. The time saved by a right thrower tagging a runner coming home is that's absolutely true. Brent is a great name. I agree. And so, but 10th offensively, 2nd defensively. How badly do you value defense? Well, let's just say that the number 1 rated defensive card is going to be higher than 10th offensively. We'll see who it is. I'm not sure off the top of my head right now. Number 6 is Kurt Abbott, who splits versus lefties, so he's not going to get too much playing time, but plays second base, shortstop, and left field. Abernathy only plays second base, so keep that in mind too. 6th offensively, 7th defensively for Kurt Abbott here at second base. He's 8th in average, last in on-base percentage, doesn't run all that great, 6th out of 10. 3rd in slugging, he does hit some home runs, 12th, or 12 home runs per 600 is 3rd among second basemen here in Iron Historical. 8th in weighted on-base average. Overall, doesn't do anything particularly terribly, but doesn't do anything particularly well either. Kurt Abbott comes in at number 6. Number 5 is Kurt Roberts, who is your 10th most used second baseman, just barely cracked the list. He is your number 1 defensive second baseman. I will say, however, that a 48 error is a little bit below Abernathy, and so at second base, shortstop, and center field, range gets weighted pretty heavily, which is why you're seeing Roberts with a little bit more defensive value than Abernathy. I actually kind of like Abernathy just a little bit better. I think that, 6 points? 6 points of error is a pretty significant difference. That's like a 10% difference in numbers between Roberts and Abernathy. And so up to you. He is graded number 1. Offensively, he's not that much better than Abernathy, a 350 on-base percentage with the ability to steal occasionally, 9 steals per 600. You're going to have to really crank him up at 24 speed, 66 steal. That's a little bit concerning to me. I'm surprised to see his stolen base percentage so high. 9th in OPS and 6th in weighted on base average. 6th in weighted on base average while playing pretty okay second base defense. You know, I don't know if the numbers hold up long term because the ratings don't look good, but so far over 1,000 plate appearances, that's not awful. That's not terrible. Thanks for buying your duplicate Hulk. Was that me? Did I do that today? I don't know. It might have been me. I bought a couple cards before we came live today to throw onto the team. Number 4 is Pete Coskerart. Pete. We're going to go with Pete at number 4, grading out 3rd offensively and 4th defensively. So, I mean, that's interesting. 10th in average, though. 7th in on-base percentage, 4th in slugging, 4th in OPS, and 4th in weighted on-base average for Coskerart. No, his name's Pete. 2nd in home runs, number 1 in stolen base percentage, 9th in strikeouts. He does strike out quite a bit, but also walks quite a bit. That's a lot of walks over 2,800 plate appearances. 72 walks per 600 is quite a bit. And even with 72 walks per 600, the on-base percentage is Not great. The defense at 62, arm at 43, turn double play at 56, fourth defensively. I think that Abernathy and Roberts are clearly slightly better with that with the range. 67 for Abernathy. The 78 range for Roberts is helpful, but you're getting pretty solid offensive value out of Cosker art. I don't necessarily think he's unusable either. At second base, he comes in at number 4. Woody Woodward comes in at number 3. He's your third defensive catcher, fourth offensively. Splits pretty heavy versus lefties, like really quite heavily versus lefties. 6 points of contact, 11 points of gap, 14 points of avoid Ks. You do get 5 points of I versus righties, but even still, Woody Woodward is grading out number 1 in batting average, number 1 in on-base percentage, number 3 in OPS, third in weighted on-base average, midpoint and slugging at 380. Doesn't hit any home runs. It's a very double-driven slugging and OPS, but not terrible. Third in runs created at 76, number 1 in WAR at second base. I do like this card for this format. Third in strikeouts and fourth in walks. Both of those pretty solid numbers for Woody Woodward if he had any power at all. Hold on one second. Well, you know what? They're all iron, so I don't need to adjust that for today's stream. I'll fix that for next time. Woody Woodward, he grades out third defensively with a 63 range, 43 arm, 58 turn double play, 56 error. So you're still looking at Roberts with the highest range in the format. But again, you're not getting any offense out of him. Woody Woodward at number 3. Number 2 is Bill Wamsgans. You're number 2 second baseman. Number 2 offensively, number 9 defensively, though. He's just not good defensively. Which is not to say that the guys who are good defensively are great. It's just to say this one is really bad. Although a 57 error rating isn't awful. Not really any splits to speak of. You got 1 point of contact, 2 points of gap. 2 points of I and 2 points of avoid Ks versus lefties, so it's not a huge split towards lefties. It is slight. He is grading out number 2 offensively, third in average, 351 on base percentage is second, slugging, OPS, weighted on base average are all second. Fourth in home runs, third in steals. He kind of does everything pretty well offensively as far as second baseman in the format go. Also, at almost 20% of his reward percentage, puts him pretty solidly in the top 20 of that statistical category. He comes in at number 2. We can call him Dub Dub. Fair. I like it. That is a... I'm sure I messed that name up pretty bad. It's probably something weird like Womans. I bet the BSG... Let's look him up. Let's see if something tells me how to pronounce it. He's not even a real person. Wamsgans. Doesn't say. Wikipedia doesn't say how to pronounce it. Baseball Reference doesn't. Wamby. Wamby is his nickname, guys. We're going to go with that. We're going to go with Wamby for his nickname. So Wamby comes in at number 2. Number 1 is 2015 snapshot Dustin Ackley. What? Number 1 offensively for Ackley. Number 5 defensively. The 52 range, 34 arm. I don't care about the arm that much at second base. It doesn't concern me that much. Dustin Ackley does a lot of really cool things, but I think left field is probably where he belongs if you're going to be starting him. We're going to hold off on talking about Ackley too much until we get to left field, but among second basemen, keep in mind that he's number 1 in weighted on base average, slugging, OPS. I'm going to guess his numbers and those won't be as highly rated against left fielders as they are against second basemen. Also hits 18 home runs per 600 plate appearances and walks quite a bit. So he's a guy who can play second base and can hit a little bit. And he's not the worst defensive second baseman we saw on the list either. He does have pretty heavy splits versus righties. So maybe as a versus righties platoon in left field while playing backup utility option on his days off, perhaps. We'll spend a little bit more time on him when we come to the left fielders. Had an unassisted triple play in the World Series. Interesting. Look him up on Baseball Reference. Let's see. Baseball Reference. It doesn't More bio. Oh, there it is. Pronunciation. Wamsgans. Wamsgans. Whams. Look. Oh. You know what? I'm just going to pull the one tab out, because you don't need to see all of the tabs I have open. Right here. Wamsgans. I thought it was going to talk to me. That's how you say his name. Good call looking him up. Wamsgans. Interesting. Dustin Ackley comes in at number 1. I don't hate the Wamsgans. Defensively, if you're just going to ignore defense, you're going to get some pretty solid offense out of him. I don't hate the Ackley card either, but I think he's better served in left field a little bit. Maybe not. We'll see. Woodward is pretty good. It's really pick your poison here. Those were your 10 qualifying second basemen. Let's move on to third baseman. We had 12 qualifying third basemen, so let's just really quickly look at 12 and 11. Phil Mankowski at 12. Number 11 was John Antonelli, who's going to hit you some doubles, guys. But that's about it. He's not going to walk. He's not going to hit home runs, and his batting average is going to be pretty low. Number 10 is catcher Tom Satriano. Number 10, third baseman. 8th offensively at third base, 5th defensively, 11th in batting average, 5th in on-base percentage, 12th in slugging percentage, 7th in weighted on-base average, while providing okay defense, not terrible defense, 57 or 52 range, 67 arm. Yeah, that's fair. Bad weave. Splits versus righties a little bit. The I, the avoid K are both pretty significant. 13 points and 11 points respectively. 8 points of gap, 4 points of contact versus righties. Also plays some first base and some catcher. So again, we looked at him as a catcher and talked about whether he'd be able to back up other positions. And I think he's prominent in that he can play them. Number 9 is Cody Self, who is in the top 20 in both points percentage and reward percentage at the moment. 6th in weighted on base average, grading out 7th offensively at third base, 9th defensively at 8.36 points of value, 49 range, 65 arm, 42 turn double play, 43 error. Plays some second base and some third base. Splits slightly, moderately towards lefties for Cody Self, though he looks like he can hit pretty okay versus lefties. 6th in average, 3rd in on-base percentage, 6th in OPS, and weighted on base average. Doesn't hit home runs. 10th out of 12 in home runs per 600. There are 2 third basemen who hit less than 0.8 home runs per 600. 5th in steals, 9th in stolen base percentage. Number 1 in strikeouts, avoidance, and number 2 in walks. It's a interesting looking offensive card. He's your 5th most used third baseman. A little bit scary defensively. I don't think you want too many guys who are really bad defensively. So if you're running something like Wamsgans at second base, you might want a little bit more defense at third base. The 43 error is a little bit concerning to me. It's pretty bad defensive ratings at third base for Self, and he's not elite offensively either. But he's not the worst at either. Number 8 is Gil Torres, who's grading out number 1 defensively, but last offensively. 12th in weighted on base average at 281. Just barely sneaks above the 300 on base percentage mark. 9th in slugging percentage. 0.63 home runs per 600 is 11th out of 12. Does run the bases a little bit. 13 steals. 4th in strikeout avoidance, but 12th in walks is really keeping his on base percentage down because even his batting average isn't very good. He's 12th in runs created per 600 plate appearances. 11th in runs, 9th in RBIs, 9th in double plays, which is pretty bad, and 10th in WAR for Gil Torres, who is your number 1 most used third baseman. People see the defense here and really like it. He's getting used a lot. So keep in mind that we may have a little bit of a large sample size alert here on Gil Torres as well, so he may be getting dragged down just a little bit by it being used almost twice as much as everybody else. But if he's in your lineup, it's purely for defensive purposes. Number 7 is Bobby Lowe. I said that 3 different ways at once, and none of them were right. He's grading out 6th offensively and 8th defensively. It's not a hard name. Bobby Lowe. 10th in average, 12th in on-base percentage are not good, but he hits for some power, almost 12 home runs. Number 1 in steals, and number 2 in stolen. Wowza. A 92% stolen base percentage with 55 steals per 600 that's pretty solid, guys. That's not bad. Third in runs, 7th in RBIs, number 1 in double play avoidance, 5th in runs created, mediocre defense at best, 8th out of 12 for Bobby Lowe, but even Gil Torres isn't that good defensively. Well, he's pretty good compared to the rest of these guys at defense. We're making good time today. He comes in at number 7. 6. Bob Baylor is at number 6. We're going to skip him for now. He's grading out second defensively at third base, but as you can see here, most of his plate appearances come as a shortstop. So we'll talk about him a little bit more when we get to shortstop. He's grading out 9th offensively among third basemen, and we're going to skip him for now. Scott Livingstone comes in at number 5. 69 contact, 67 gap, 79 avoid Ks versus right-handed pitching. You're going to see a pretty solid batting average for a guy like Livingstone. Third among third basemen at 297. 357 on base percentage is number 2. Slugging percentage is number 3. A doubles heavy slugging percentage for him. Not a lot of power here. 338 weighted on base average. 5th in walks and 6th in strikeouts, both middle of the pack. Doesn't really run the bases, but contributes pretty solidly. 75 runs created per 600 is 4th, with at 7th and 5th in RBIs and runs per 600 plate appearances. Pretty bad defensively at third base. He's 11th out of 12, but after you get through the first like 2 or 3 guys at third base, the rest of these guys are all pretty interchangeable defensively. So you're probably going to want to be looking for the one who gives you the best offense if you're just looking for them. And Livingston gives pretty solid offense out of the third base position. He only plays third base, which is a little bit of a concern. He can't be a utility guy versus lefties, and but he's going to be playing 75% of the time anyway. So maybe you can use him in that way. Joe Strip comes in at number 4. Number 2 in batting average, number 1 in on-base percentage. 3rd offensively, 12th defensively, but again, is he really that much worse than, say, Bobby Lowe? 45, 62, 45, 50, 41. Oh, yeah. Nope. Yeah, he's actually that much worse. This is a really bad defensive card, but gives you solid offense. So 2nd in average, 1st in on-base percentage, 4th in slugging, 3rd in OPS, 3rd in weighted on-base average, 5th in home runs, number 1 in stolen base percentage at 93.94, but only steals 5 per 600 plate appearances. Somebody's being smart with him. He can do it, apparently. And in this format, you know, this is probably the only format that I can think of where you're going to be able to get 6 steals per 600 out of a guy with 19 speed and 57 steal. So something to think about while you're building your team here is that even really bad base runners can steal some bases in this format. 52 strikeouts per 600 is number 3 among third basemen, 6th in walks among third basemen, 3rd in runs created, but again, really, really bad defensively for Joe Strip. He comes in at number 4. Number 3 is Stu Clark, your 7th most used player. He's grading out 3rd defensively and 5th offensively. A little bit of a split towards lefties, but only 2 points or so in basically all 5 categories. No split in avoid Ks and 3 points in I. Otherwise, it's 2 points towards lefties. 12th in batting average out of 12 is kind of bad. But 7th in on-base percentage, 3rd in home runs, 5th in slugging, OPS, and weighted on-base average for Stu Clark. He is 6th in runs created, and you can see another guy with 5.5 or so steals per 600. Only an 80% stolen base percentage for him, though, which is a little surprising. 1957 getting a 93, probably just pushing him up just a little bit too much. Does have that sack bunt to go along with it as well, and plays okay defensively. So a little bit of offense here, a little bit of defense for Stu Clark as well. 68 range, 62 turn double play, which he gets from being a shortstop. He is a shortstop at heart, and it looks like he's about half and half. So it looks like he gets about half use as a third baseman, half use as a shortstop. We'll see what he looks like at shortstop. You guys got quiet. Did I get booted? Did my internet die? It seems like it's still working. I do see some drop frames though, so let me know if you guys are having issues on your end. Number 2 is Rob Quinlan, who is your most used, or 2nd most used third baseman here, grading out second offensively and sixth defensively for Rob Quinlan. So okay defense again. That the everything from like 4 to 10 is basically interchangeable defensively, and Quinlan's giving you just a little bit more offense than some of the other guys. Number 1 in home runs among third basemen at 12.83. Fourth in average and on base percentage. Second in the rest of your rate categories in slugging, OPS, and weighted on base average. Those are some pretty okay numbers. Does have pretty heavy splits versus lefties. So keep that in mind. Maybe your utility first baseman / third baseman, and it looks like he'd be an okay first baseman. He's not super tall, but has decent range and a pretty good error rating. So maybe a utility first baseman, third baseman, spelling your third baseman on when he's tired and playing third base versus left-handed pitching. For Rob Quinlan. I don't think it's an unusable card if you use it in the right way. I think you're going to see numbers a little bit lower than this if you can't find a way to platoon him at third base, though, for Quinlan. But definitely looks like a usable card to me here in the format. Number 1 is Darrell Griffith. Your third most used card of the format. Plays third base, left field, right field. Everything he's played has been listed as a third baseman. He is top 20 in reward percentage. Number 1 offensively, number 7 defensively. Giving you the number 1 batting average, 6th in on base percentage, 1st in slugging, OPS. Weighted on base average, 4th in home runs, 3rd in steals, 7th in strikeouts. Doesn't walk much, which is why you're seeing that lowish on base percentage, but he runs well, gets on base, hits for a little bit of power, plays a little bit of defense. Number 1 in runs and RBIs, number 1 in runs created, number 1 in WAR, and splits versus righties. So, you know, I'm going to go ahead and give Darrell Griffith, well, my stamp of approval here at number 1 among third basemen. I like this card. I think it looks okay. You know, I don't think it's a must-have. I don't think it's like a head and shoulders ahead of all the other cards. But you're seeing pretty solid offensive numbers here. You're seeing pretty good defense. You know, obviously the Gil Torres has a little bit better defense. I think there's two. Where's the other guys? So Clark is a little bit better defense, but he's a shortstop, and then the other one is Baylor, who's a shortstop as well. So, and then you get into that number 4 where everything's just they're all kind of the same defensively here at third base. I do like this Darrell Griffith card. I don't think it's too bad looking. Let's go to shortstops. We only had 8 qualifying shortstops. Number 8 was Angel Sanchez from 2010, grading out 8th offensively and 8th defensively. That means he's bad. How's he grading out 8th offensively, though? 6th in steals, he just doesn't do anything. You know, he doesn't hit home runs. He doesn't really steal bases. 6th in weighted on base average, 5th in runs created, 7th in WAR, 7th in runs. Kind of 7th, 5th, 6th, 7th, and everything, and doesn't play great defense, just 25 points of value, 68 range, 59 arm, 62 turn double play, 52 error, with a shortstop rating of 48. Does play a second base and shortstop, so the utility is there. Splits a little bit versus righties, but bad offense, bad defense. Let's see who's number 7. Wayne Ambler comes in at number 7. 7th offensively, 5th defensively here at least. Really? 68, 59, 50. Whoops. I'm going the wrong way. 59, 58, 62. So the turn double play, the error gets him a little bit of value. Yeah, again, kind of at shortstop, it looks like they're all pretty interchangeable here. There's only less than half a point between 5 and 8 of value. So they're all pretty interchangeable defensively, it looks like. Ambler comes in at 5th defensively, but 7th offensively, so just barely better than Sanchez. 8th in batting average, 2nd in on-base percentage, 8th in slugging, and 7th in OPS, 4th in weighted on-base average, over 300 weighted on-base average. He's 8th in home runs and 7th in steals, though. 7th in runs created as well, and 8th in runs and RBIs. I think I actually like the Sanchez card a little bit better than Ambler, just at first look. Number 6 is Bob Baylor, so here you go. He's 4th defensively at shortstop. and 5th offensively as shortstop. So kind of like we expected, his offense plays up just a little bit here at shortstop, but his defense plays down a little bit at shortstop. 69 range, 61 arm, 60 turn double play, 63 error. Clearly the top defensive shortstop that we've seen so far. 46 second base rating, 53 third base rating. Baylor can play multiple positions. Does split pretty heavy versus lefties, unfortunately. 63 contact versus 52 versus righties, and 100 avoid K versus 80 against righties. So maybe a platoon at shortstop with a backup utility on his days off. 5th offensively, though, is the number 1 base stealer among shortstops, but does get caught pretty bad, quite a bit. Only a 75% stolen base percentage, so you might want to tone it down just a little bit. That's so weird. The stolen base numbers are kind of weird here right now. Number 1 in strikeouts, number 5 in walks for Bob Baylor. He's number 2 in batting average among shortstops, and can run. I think he's a solid option. I think he's a solid option at shortstop who can play a little bit of defense, gives you some offense as well. But he comes in at number 6 overall. Number 5 is Jose Valdevelso, who's giving you number 3 offensively, number 3 defensively. Interesting. 3rd in home runs, almost 8. 6th in average, 4th in on-base percentage, 6th in slugging, 4th in OPS, and 3rd in weighted on-base average. Defensively, he's giving you really solid range at 76, just a 57 shortstop rating, 68 arm. The error of 54 is 9 points below Baylor, so not great there, but the range is pretty useful as well. So Valdevelso gets some bonus points for having some extra range at shortstop. 4th in steals. But again, outside of the top 1 or 2 guys, nobody is terribly good at stealing bases at the position. 3rd in walks and 6th in strikeouts for Valdevelso. Number 4 is Stu Clark, who we saw at third base. And much like Bob Baylor, we're seeing his offense play way up here at shortstop, but we're seeing his defense play down just a little bit. He's actually grading out in a tie for 6th defensively with his 68 range, 62 turn double play, 59 arm, and 54 error. Does have the utility of playing 3rd and short, and grades out 2nd offensively, 2nd in weighted on base average, number 1 in slugging while being 2nd in home runs, and 3rd in on base percentage. 4th in runs, 2nd in RBI, 6th in ground into double plays, and 2nd in runs created per 600 for Stu Clark. Number 3 is Frank Parkinson, who's grading out 2nd defensively and 6th offensively at shortstop. Only plays shortstop. Good range, good arm, good turn double play, mediocre, moderate, okay error. The 57 error rating is not the worst we've seen on the list, and a 61 shortstop rating. Solid looking defensive shortstop here for Parkinson. But offensively, a little bit of a mixed bag. 244 average, just a 278 on base percentage. That's pretty bad. He is number 1 in home runs with 14.5 per 600, 5th in OPS, and 8th in weighted on base average for Frank Parkinson, and 8th in runs created at 59.59. So to be number 1 in home runs per 600 and be 8th in runs created per 600 tells me that these numbers are really bad. And so he just doesn't do much in the way of home runs. Or he does hit some home runs, but he doesn't do much else, is what I'm trying to say there. Number 2 is Hanley Frias, who's grading out number 1 offensively, 6.5. I'm good for now, thank you. For Frias. Number 1 in runs created at 79. 3rd in runs, 5th in RBIs for Frias. 4th in average. Number 1 in on-base percentage at 375. Over 1,395 plate appearances. Accidentally hits a home run here and there. Can steal some bases. 24 steals per 600. Number 1 in walks. Number 4 in strikeouts. 2nd in OPS. And 1st in weighted on-base average. Which is pretty surprising to me. Because I feel like, you know what's interesting? Infield defense is so bad that ground ball hitters, I think, are almost better to play here than they are in other formats. Splits a little bit versus lefties in contact and avoid K. It's 11 points of avoid K, but the eye splits towards righties. The power and the gap all split towards righties as well for Hanley Frias. So he's a switch hitter, which is nice. He's your 6th most used player. 2nd in steals, 3rd in stolen base percentage, which is good. Number 1 in runs created. Number 1 in WAR as a shortstop. Only plays shortstop. for you, does Hanley Frias. But this is a, decent looking card. It's not terrible. Again, kind of a definitely not that top tier defensively. But every card here is a pick your poison card. So Frias comes in at number 2. Number 1 is Caesar Izturis. Man, if those splits were reversed. Izturis is grading out number 4 offensively and number 1 defensively. Even though he only has a 58 shortstop rating, he's just behind those 2 guys that have above 60. I think it's Baylor and Valdevelso maybe that are above 60, but he's got the 70 plus range, 63 arm, a 78 error rating is the highest out of all of our defensive shortstops here, and a 57 turn double play rating. Also is putting out number 4 offensively, number 1 in batting average, 3rd in slugging OPS, 5th in weighted on base average. The WOBA is a little bit low at 299, I won't lie, but he's 3rd in runs created, 2nd in runs, and 4th in RBIs, while being another one of those guys who accidentally hits a home run now and then, but can run the bases okay. Like, he runs the bases pretty well. I think people are probably asking just a little bit too much out of him, but, it is what it is. Izturis is a switch hitter, and your 3rd most used shortstop. The lack of utility is a little bit concerning to me, but he looks pretty solid at shortstop. I'm going to plug him in for now for my team just to see what we can get out of him. He's the Andrelton Simmons of iron. I don't know about that. He's not light years ahead of the other guys defensively. Like, Simmons is so far ahead of everybody else defensively that it makes sense to play him. You're at least getting a little bit of offense compared to some of the other shortstops out of Izturis than you do out of Andrelton Simmons at bronze. Let's just call the cake baked and say Andrelton Simmons does not provide offense. It is a negative offensive value for your team in bronze. But I don't know when the next point sale is, Fred. But he's definitely, overall, I think he's pretty clearly the number 1 rated shortstop defensively. I don't know that the numbers are interesting to me. I'm a little surprised to see his batting average as high as it is. Just because that contact number versus righties and the avoid K versus righties aren't super high. So I'm a little surprised to see his numbers as high as they are. And I don't know that they'll stay that high, but I think he's a solid option at shortstop. I think any one of these 8 guys on the right team could be a successful shortstop. Left field, we had 15 qualifiers. Let's just do it. Merlin Kopp at 15, Keg Cather 14, Derek Bell 13. Whoops. 1992, Derek Bell at 13. Woody Jensen at 12. Buddy Hassett at 11. Number 10 is Buster Adams. Who knows? That's literally the answer people can guess, but until it actually happens, that's the answer. Oh, we're talking about the perfect point cell. Fair. Thanks, Dish. Adams comes in 12th offensively out of 15 in left field, 3rd defensively, so you're getting some okay defense out of him here in left field, but we want a little bit more offense than this out of our left fielder, I think. He does hit bombs. 19 home runs per 600 is I want to say the 4th most we've seen out of any batter on the list so far. So maybe we'll see some good home run numbers here out of left field. 15th in average, 11th in on-base percentage. All of his rate stats are worse than 10th, so he's really just a defensive value left fielder if you're going to play him here. I think we want a little bit more offense out of this position, though. 14th in runs created. Jesus Alou comes in at number 9. Pretty heavy splits versus lefties. Does play left field and right field. Is grading out 15th defensively in left field, though, which is not great. 7th offensively. Number 1 in batting average, 5th in on-base percentage slugging, 3rd in OPS and weighted on-base average, 13th in steals, so doesn't really run. Although he's number 1 in stolen base percentage, which is weird. Strikeouts per 600, he's 2nd, but he doesn't really walk much, which is dragging his on-base percentage, which is still a pretty solid 361. He's 5th in runs created among left fielders. He's just really bad defensively, and I think I'd consider him more a designated hitter, especially versus lefties. It's really, really heavy splits versus lefties for Jesus Alou, which really limits his functionality here in this format right now, with 70+% of the pitchers being righties. Number 8 is Jake Bowers. We saw him at first base as well. Splits towards righties, grading out 9th offensively in left field, grading out 8th defensively, so just kind of a mediocre option, both offensively and defensively. here in left field. I mean, he's going to walk. The on-base percentage is pretty good. Top half in home runs and base running. He kind of does everything, right? For Bowers, he comes in at number 8. Number 7 is Mark Quinn, who splits pretty heavy towards lefties, which makes me sad. Quinn is our first guy on the left field list who is on both the point percentage and reward percentage top 20 proven winner alert. Second in home runs at 21.7. Second in slugging. This is a guy who is a really solid platoon option here in left field and plays some right field as well. So useful. He's 6th offensively, 6th defensively, and I think you can actually get a little bit more out of him if you're straight platooning him in left field. It's a useful card in the format because he can back up your right fielder on his days off. He is listed as a right fielder, so we'll see where he stacks up over there. And hits almost 22 home runs per 600. I do like this card as a left fielder. We'll plug him in at left field versus lefties right now, just to see, and we'll keep an eye out for a left fielder versus righties. He's at number 7. Number 6 is Jorge Bonifacio, who has almost no splits at all. Grading out 5th offensively and 7th defensively here in left field. Again, you're not seeing a lot of green on your outfield ratings here in left field right now. But he's got 5 points of avoid K versus lefties. He's got 9 points of I versus righties, 8 points of gap versus lefties. But his power and his contact are both almost exactly the same versus lefties and righties. 7th in average, 6th in on-base percentage, 8th in slugging, 6th in OPS, 5th in weighted on-base average. I feel like if you're going to use Quinn as a platoon guy, Bonifacio probably isn't terribly useful to you. Where do I find the list of most quality players? I don't know what you mean by that. But I really think that the problem with Bonifacio is that, yeah, he's going to be mediocre versus he's both lefties and righties, but he's not going to be particularly good versus one or the other. He comes in at number 6. Number 5 is Dustin Ackley. So here you go. We talked about Ackley at second base. His offense obviously plays down a little bit here in left field, but if you can platoon him versus righties, then who knows? You get 68 gap, 63 power with a 58 avoid K out of him. 9th in on-base percentage, 6th in slugging, 8th in OPS, and 8th in weighted on-base average. For Dustin Ackley, 7th in runs created, so just 8th here in left field, but usable, I think, and I think he'll actually benefit from being platooned just a little bit. He's at number 5. Number 4 is your most used card in left field in your iron. You mentioned 2 lists that players are on. So like Ackley, we saw Ackley on the list when we were going through for second baseman. So that's what I mean when it comes to that. Cullip comes in at number 4. Number 1 in home runs, 25.98 home runs per 600 plate appearances. Blitz versus lefties. Is that enough to say we're going to use him over Mark Quinn in left field? I don't know. I kind of want to plug him in here as a designated hitter. We'll see what the hitter list looks like. Cullip is your most used left fielder, which is a little surprising to me. But even with the splits, I mean, these numbers versus righties are... The avoid K is terrifying combined with the contact. That's going to be a really low batting average. Even lower than this, probably. The points and rewards percentage. Those are a different spot on the sheet. Yeah, so those are... yeah. Honestly, Alu rakes. You like Alu a lot, Dish, huh? I mean, he's good. He's good versus lefties, especially. Let's see. Number 3 is so on Cullip. I mean, he hits bombs versus lefties and righties. He's gonna strike out a lot, not walk much. He's gonna have a really low on-base percentage and batting average versus righties out in left field. He's at number 4. Somebody has Alu listed at 89.98. Interesting. Yeah, his contact is pretty good for Alu. Termel Sledge, left field, number 3, gross. 4th offensively, 4th defensively, 3,000 plate appearances, 273 average, 8th in average, 7th in on-base percentage, 4th in weighted on-base average, though. Hits for some power, hits a lot of doubles and triples. Probably more doubles than triples because he's not very fast. He's an okay base runner, though. Second in stolen base percentage, sixth in strikeouts, fifth in walks, third in runs created per 600, fourth in runs, and sixth in RBIs per 600 plate appearances while playing okay left field. Splits pretty heavy versus righties, so perhaps as your versus righty side of your platoon with whoever you're going to play versus lefties, maybe it's Alu versus lefties, who looks pretty solid, but he comes in at number 3. How bad was Alu defensively? That's what it is. He's just really bad defensively is why he's getting dragged down. He is pretty good offensively. You guys really like him, huh? Number 2 is Eric Owens, who again splits pretty heavy versus lefties. 7 points of contact, 13 points of gap, 11 points of avoid K versus, and 6 points of power versus lefties for Eric Owens. So really kind of needs to be platoon, and the question becomes how many guys can you platoon in one lineup? And it's not that many, guys, unless you're doing it right where, you know, he's the backup at another position, which he plays all 3 outfield positions. He has center field eligibility. So it is what it is there. I don't know that I'd play him even as a utility center fielder, but he's grading out third offensively and second defensively in left field. Looks like a solid platoon option. 300 batting average, pretty good. 377 on base percentage. There was somebody else above 300 batting average on the list. Interesting. 801 OPS, second in weighted on base average for Eric Owens. He's your 4th most used player here in left field. 3rd in strikeouts, 9th in walks, though, is going to still a pretty good on base percentage. Number 1 in runs, 11th in RBIs. He can run. Be careful with the base stealing, though. You probably want to actually bump him down a little bit. That is a pretty large gap between his speed and his steal, and it might get him into trouble on the bases, as you can see with a 68% stolen base percentage for Eric Owens. Still, 89.44 runs created per 600 is second, and he's second in WAR among left fielders. Comes in at number 2. Nobody's gonna bite on that. That's too much. Do not pay 9,000 points for Alu. No great defensive option in the top 10. No, there is no great defense here in Iron Historical. It's not like the live stuff. If someone bit on that, his last 10 would shoot up over 850. That's fair. Brandon Boggs comes in at number 1. What everybody says. He's pretty bad defensively, but is grading out number 1 offensively. Over 859 plate appearances here. So small sample size alert. He's number 1 in OPS, number 1 in weighted on base average, and number 1 in on base percentage. Solid power numbers versus lefties. 85 gap versus lefties, but I do not like this card. The avoid Ks combined with the contact is going to keep his batting average down too low, although a 273 looks kind of okay. He's 3rd in runs, 9th in RBIs, number 1 in runs created per 600. Now, one thing I want you to keep in mind when we talk about runs created per 600 here is that I don't calculate this myself. I just use runs created and divide it. But he's number 1 offensively. I don't agree with it. I don't like him at number 1. What does he do versus righties? He does have a solid eye and a solid gap rating versus righties, which is a little bit helpful here right now. There weren't a lot of guys on this list that split towards righties. It was Sledge splits a little bit towards righties. Pull-up doesn't. Ackley splits towards righties. Bonifacio hits lefties and righties. Quinn splits towards lefties. Bowers splits towards righties. So your other option is Bowers in left field. So what's the spread on batting average that a 273 only scores out at 9th? So number 1 is, who is number 1? Actually, Alu at 334. Like, that's really solid. So, you know, I don't disagree with you guys that Alu rakes. Like, it's a solid card. There's not a lot of power here, which is why he's getting dragged down a little bit. I use weighted on base average and not the rest of these categories So this is a card that really gets hurt by my formula right now, just because of the way that it calculates. Both home runs and steals are used. Runs created is used as well. So he's actually getting probably devalued a little bit, or quite a bit, by my formula right now. Who ranked number 1 defensively was, let's see, was Ackley, rated number 1 defensively. There's just no defense here in left field in Iron Historical. A 52 range, 45 arm, 59 error with a 57 left field rating ranks first. There's just nothing here. And they're all mushed together. Like, they're all, like, you don't see anybody who's awful either. There's, other than Alu, which I'll just throw out there. That's dragging him down as well. This is dragging him down, as well as the fact that home runs and steals are used in the formula. It's just pretty barren. You don't care how your guy's going to base, just so long as they get there after that. Yeah, that's fair too. A 334 batting average over 1,900 plate appearances is pretty solid for Alu. I think it's a good looking card. The splits versus lefties are okay. I do like the Quinn card as well. I think that the Quinn card is perfectly usable versus lefties as well, and borderline usable versus righties as well for Quinn, while providing some mediocre defense in left field as well, as instead of just awful defense in left field. So those are your stats for left fielders. Moving on to center fielders. There were 10 qualifiers. Number 10 was Billy Zitzman, who steals bases and is okay defensively and plays a whole lot of defensive positions. Almost all of his positions are listed as center field. He only has 21 plate appearances listed somewhere other than center field. 9th in average, 8th in on-base percentage, 10th in slugging, 9th in OPS, and 9th in weighted on-base average. 9th offensively overall. While not providing elite defense, it is what it is. Zitzman can run. I think he's a really interesting option as a utility outfielder if you're looking for a straight utility outfielder. He doesn't really split anywhere, but he doesn't really look great. He looks like pretty good as a late inning base stealer for you. 81% stolen base percentage at 30 plus steals per 600, and the ability to play some center field as well. Mediocre defense, mediocre offense for Billy Zitzman. Number 9 is Jesus Tavares, who splits towards, kind of towards lefties. You got 12 points of avoid K towards lefties and 1 point of contact, but you do have 8 points of gap towards righties and 1 point of I towards righties. Grading out 4th defensively, and he's got a 71 range, 51 arm, 51 error, with a 50 center field rating. Again, these outfielders just don't have the ability to play defense, which makes me kind of think that this almost becomes really important here in this format, just because if you can put the ball in play, you've got a really good chance of getting on base here in the format. I think that avoid K is pretty effective here. 7th in average and on base percentage, 8th in the rest of your rate stats. Slugging, OPS, weighted on base average, does hit a home run here and there. Another guy who can run just a little bit. 2nd in steals, though he's 8th in stolen base percentage. 2nd in double play avoidance. 8th in runs created for Jesus Tavares, who is mediocre and mediocre. He's played above that for you. Interesting. Someone can get on base and run in the number 1 spot at. Yeah, I think that's fair as well. And again, I don't sit here and try to presume to build your teams for you. I just create a formula that sometimes makes sense and sometimes doesn't make sense, and then let you guys go to town on it. Number 8 is Paul Lehner, who splits pretty heavy versus righties, is showing a 251 batting average, which is 8th, a 294 on base percentage, which is 10th out of 10. But hit some home runs. I don't think this number stays up there, though, with a 47 power versus righties, 37 versus lefties. I think this is a 700 plate appearance sample size aberration. I really don't think Paul Lehner is going to stay up at almost 19 home runs per 600, and his defense is not great either. 70 range, 21 arm, 55 error. He's actually the lowest defensive rated player on the list. Paul Lehner comes in at number 8. Yeah, I'm having trouble finding some of these cards, DGOist. It's been interesting trying to track some of these down. You thought Jankowski might show up on this list, but he doesn't hit that well. I'm not totally familiar with him. Avoid K is for low tier batters, seems to be what movement is for low tier pitchers, which is, that's fair. But then we get a guy like Tom Oliver, who's got 80 avoid K versus lefties and 100 avoid K versus righties, and is #1 defensively, but is rating awful offensively. And so you still need that contact, right? So maybe it's this number that we need to be focused on a little bit more than the avoid K's number, because batting average on balls in play is the next thing for me to work on. I want to get it added for the next stream. I was going to do it today, but then, it's life. Doesn't hit any home runs. The on-base percentage is terrible. Doesn't really run the bases either. The OPS and weighted on-base average are all pretty low. He is good defensively. If all you want out of your center fielder is defense, Tom Oliver is far and away the best defensive center fielder in the format. Tom Oliver is also pretty far and away the worst hitter in the format. 287 weighted on base average for Zitzman, who's 9. It's a 281 for Tom Oliver, so 6 points of difference. He should be better than he is. Yeah, you got to pair. Yeah, I agree. You need that gap or you need that contact. Jankowski's live, so he wouldn't be in this format. So it is what it is with Oliver. You're going to get good defense. I'm really surprised to see his numbers this low. I love that 100 avoid K. That 48 contact is just dragging him down a little bit. And, let's be honest, the 254 batting average isn't terrible. He just doesn't do anything with it, because he doesn't walk to help improve his on-base percentage at all. It still ends up at a 306 on-base percentage, and there's no gap. There's no power. It's just singles for a guy who doesn't really run the bases either. So he's a mediocre offensive option, but he's very good defensively in center field. Red Barnes comes in at 6. He's 9th defensively and 6th offensively, 4th in average, 5th in on-base percentage, 6th in slugging, 5th in OPS and WOBA, 5th in steals as well, so middle of the pack. Basically everywhere offensively, 5th in runs created, and not great defense for Red Barnes, over 806 plate appearances. For Red Barnes, he comes in at 6. I don't see too many reasons for Barnes to get more play than he is right now. It's mediocre mediocre offense with not great defense at a premium defensive position. So I really think that the 800 plate appearances you're seeing out of Red Barnes, and he only plays center field, so he doesn't provide any utility at all. I just don't see him getting more of a play than he is right now. Buster Adams comes in at 5. We saw him in left field, matches up 5th offensively here in center field as well. 8th defensively in center field. I think that he's more of a, if you can hide him and play him only versus lefties, you'll get some power out of him. 19 home runs per 600, 383 slugging percentage, 6th in OPS for Buster Adams. Defensively, again, he's definitely a 3rd tier defensive outfielder here in Iron historical. But again, Oliver's the only guy who's providing any semblance of really, really solid defense. And you saw what we're getting offensively out of him. So just keep that in mind. Buster Adams comes in at 5. 4 is Chet Morgan, who's grading out 6th defensively and 4th offensively. And then you see this, and you're like, well, what? How is he getting #1 in average and on-base percentage when Oliver, it should be better, right? You would think that Tom Oliver would be better offensively than what we're seeing out of Chet Morgan. Now, Oliver, they're both ground ball hitters. Morgan has a little bit more speed, a little bit more base running as well. You would think that Oliver would be a little bit better than Chet Morgan. 313 average, 378 on-base percentage just doesn't make sense to me. And I'm trying to figure out how to make it make sense. 340 weighted on base average. You would really, really think that Oliver would be a little bit better. The only thing I can think of here is the base running combined with the ground ball combined with really bad defense, right? That's the only thing I can think of. 59 contact. Although that 59 contact, so that batting average ball and play rating is probably helping him out quite a bit versus righties. Now that I look a little bit deeper, I think the avoid Ks is good, but a 10-point difference in contact is pretty big. That is a pretty big difference in contact. Sorry, yeah, there you go. So that I think that's definitely skewing it a little bit. And his contact versus lefties, and it's 5 points versus lefties. So yeah, you know, the more I look at it, the more it makes a little bit of sense. In that batting average on balls in play, because neither one of them is going to strike out very much, right? So he's striking out 43. Number one in strikeouts, Oliver's probably around like 44 would be my guess, 48. So just a little bit more. So that batting average ball in play on that contact, that 10 points of contact versus righties and the 5 points versus lefties is probably what's doing it for Morgan. There we go. So a little bit better offensively, a little bit worse defensively. Oliver's still the best defensive player right now in center field, if that's what you want. Tom Oliver's pull and Chet Morgan is spray. That's a good point too. Normal spray. That's a pretty good point too. The pull versus the spray for Chet Morgan. Fair enough. So you won't get as much of the defensive shifts going on either. Not pull ground ball. If you see, yeah, that's fair. That's a really good point too. Whoops. What? There. Okay, go away. Number 3 is Vance Dingus. Number 2 in average, number 2 in on-base percentage, right behind Chet Morgan. He's another ground ball, and you've got the spray ground ball. That's a really good point that I don't think we've spent nearly enough time on the stream talking about is that, you know, in the past is the profiles here, especially when you start getting into profiles into really, really bad defense, because there's really, really bad defense here. And so a guy like Dingus looks pretty good. Like this is a decent looking card. Lots of utility here for Vance Dingus. 1,500 plate appearances at other positions. I don't remember seeing him at first base. He might have been lower on the list, but he's grading out 3rd offensively and 3rd defensively here in center field, and is a top 20 point percentage guy. Decent speed compared to some other guys on the list. 4th in slugging, 2nd in OPS. Among center fielders, 3rd in weighted on base average. You know, he's an okay base runner, 3rd in runs, 7th in RBIs, 2nd in runs created, number 1 in WAR among guys who play center field, and plays a whole bunch of different positions. So you can platoon him. Not that I've seen a really solid platoon option here versus lefties in center field yet, but Dingus is an interesting looking card as well. Another spray ground ball hitter. That is probably getting helped out just a little bit by that game engine there. So Dingus doesn't look awful as a center field option. Quietly plug him in there. Number 2 is Johnny Woodward. Grading out number 2 offensively and number 2 defensively right now is Woodward. 288 average is 3rd. 363 on base percentage is 4th. 3rd in slugging, 3rd in OPS, 4th in weighted on base average for Woodward. Just a pretty well-rounded offensive card. Splits versus righties. It's a pretty big split versus righties. You've got 8 points of contact, 12 points of gap, 10 points of eye, and 11 points of avoid Ks. You do get 6 points of power versus lefties, but you know, he's got to hit the ball first. And so middle of the pack in home runs. He's an okay base runner. Again, much like all of the second tier guys on this list. 6th in runs, 4th in RBIs, 3rd in runs created per 600 for Johnny Woodward. Pretty solid looking option. Also top 20 in both points percentage and reward percentage. Johnny Woodward is getting it done for you guys out there. At number 2 in center field. Number 1 center fielder, is it Larry Harlow comes in at number 1. I didn't see a single guy on this list to platoon versus lefties. Maybe Buster Adams to platoon versus lefties if you're looking for a platoon. But I'll be honest, I think Chet Morgan looks perfectly cromulent versus lefties, and Dingus looks okay. I'd prefer to platoon him, but number 1 is Larry Harlow. 1,069 plate appearances. He's grading out number 1 offensively, but number 7 defensively. So keep that in mind. You're not getting good defense out of this card, but he's giving pretty solid offense. Number 1 in runs, number 3 in home runs, 5th in average, 3rd in on-base percentage with the ability to run the bases, 2nd in slugging percentage, 1st in OPS, 1st in weighted on-base average, 4th in steals, number 1 in walks, helping that on-base percentage. 106-point gap between on-base percentage and batting average is a little bit concerning to me. I won't lie. Number 1 in runs. Number 1 in double play avoidance as well. Probably because he's the only guy on the list that doesn't hit ground balls. Number 1 in runs created for Larry Harlow in center field here on this list. I don't love this card. I don't love it. I don't love any of these cards, if I'm being totally honest. I do like the Woodward. I think Woodward is less needed to be platoon than some of the other guys, but you know, I like the Vance Dingas versus righties. I think this is pretty solid versus righties while giving pretty okay defense in center field. There's just nobody to platoon with him. Maybe he plays okay versus lefties too. You know what? Let's just do it. Let's just do it. Those are your center fielders. Moving on to right fielders. Wally Reg comes in at number 10. Reg is 9th offensively, 11th defensively. We had 12 qualifiers. Number 12 was Tavares. Number 11 was Bell. Number 10 is Reg. Not a lot of power here. 11th out of 12 in home runs, but 4th in average, 4th in on-base percentage, 8th in weighted on-base average, though. 4th in runs and 8th in runs created. Does run the bases at 27 or so steals per 600 with just a 77% stolen base percentage. 11th defensively in right field. So not a great defensive right fielder. Doesn't have a lot of utility either. Normal. That's something we probably need to start spending more time talking about. Oh, goodness gracious. Number 9 is Clyde Barnhart. I might have to cut these lists down to like 7 or 5 and make the cutoff higher just to speed things up a little bit. Clyde Barnhart or stop rambling. At number 9, no splits to speak of here for Barnhart. Literally 1 point in 3 categories for Barnhart. So usable versus lefties and righties, grading out 11th offensively still though, but 3rd defensively in right field. Much like left field, it does not appear that there's a lot of defense here in right field. 11th out of 12 in average slugging, OPS, 10th in weighted on base average. I want a little bit more offense out of my right fielder than he's giving, but he does hit some home runs. 15 home runs per 600 for him. 11th in runs created, 12th in runs, and 8th in RBIs for Barnhart. Comes in at number 9. Number 8 is Bob Molinaro. Ground ball, pull, ground ball. So you're going to see the shifts affect him quite a bit. He is a spray fly ball hitter. Interesting. 7th in average, 6th in on-base percentage, and 7th in slugging. 9th in OPS, and 9th in weighted on-base average. So I learned something today. 2nd in steals, 75% stolen base percentage isn't great, though. Number 1 in strikeout avoidance, so no surprise there. But pretty heavy splits versus righties, which is good. Plays left field and right field, so platoon him versus righties, and you're probably going to be okay. And he can back up right field and left field on his days off. 7th defensively, so again, all of these right fielders are pretty mediocre defensively. Outside of Oliver, all of the outfielders are defensively deficient. Yes, and Oliver, for whatever reason, is offensively deficient. So here's a left field platoon option, finally. Grading out number 2 defensively in right field. I don't think he's unusable versus righties, but definitely going to get a little bit more use out of him versus lefties with 9 points of I and 17 points of avoid K to go along with 6 points of contact. A little bit more power versus righties for Bautista, so you're going to see a pretty low on OPS and weighted on base average versus lefties. But a 298 batting average is 2nd among right fielders. A 356 on base percentage is 5th. Almost 10 home runs per 600. Doesn't really run, although he's a good base run or a good base stealer, not a great base runner. 9th in runs, 6th in RBIs, 9th in runs created. Not great offense, but plays decent defense in right field. Only plays right field and will play much better versus lefties. I'm surprised to see him getting used this much, but it is what it is. The ground ball, batting average ball. Is the AI smart enough to shift only when there are pull guys hitting? No, that's going to be, well, really good question. I don't know. But it kind of, I don't know. I haven't done any science to stuff like that. He kind of rises to the top of right field when you're trying to build a roster. Bautista? I can see that just because it looks like he should hit versus righties, and You know, he's a 58 rated card, so he's probably pretty high on the list, and he plays okay defense as well. Yeah, I agree. It's he's not bad. You know, the eye's a little bit low though. Because you know, when you look at that main roster builder thing, well, no, because now you can adjust it as necessary. So yeah, I can definitely see that. Definitely, I would try to platoon him versus lefties if you can. Number 6 is Dick Cox. Little bit of a split versus lefties, but not much. 2 points of contact. Sorry, I was in the middle of a burp. 4 points of I, 2 points of avoid K. 61 steal rating is okay. Number 1 stolen base percentage among right fielders. Only 1,300 plate appearances, but he's number 1 in batting average and an over 400 on base percentage for Dick Cox right now, with a 357 weighted on base average. Does only grade out 6 defensively, but again, we're just not seeing any defense here in right field. So there's not a ton. There's really not any guys on the list I've seen that'd be like, yeah, you absolutely have to play him for defense. This is a good looking card for right field for me. Third in runs created. Not a lot of RBIs here. You're gonna want him kind of probably batting second, I would say, in your lineup if you're going to use him. It's just a really solid batting average. I wish he could run the bases just a little bit better, but still not bad. Not a bad base runner. Number 1 in walks, 3rd in strikeout avoidance as well. Just a pretty good all-around offensive card for you here. Nothing really stands out as deficient offensively. Though he's not going to light the world on fire either. I think it's a pretty solid card in right field. Here's Bonifacio again, getting some credit for his home runs and his weighted on base average, which are both pretty high. The batting average is a little bit low at 274 among right fielders. You're seeing some pretty solid batting averages here for right fielders, all things considered. 357 on base percentage is 3rd. He's grading out 3rd offensively, 10th defensively. I do like him a little bit better in left field, but he's a guy who can, you know, back up left field and right field, provide a little bit of power off the bench. I don't love him as a starter, but if you need a utility option, I think there's worse options out there. Number 4 is Mark Quinn. Here he is again, grading out 5th defensively here in right field as well. So really, really useful card here in the format. You can play him in left field, you can play him in right field. If you're having issues finding a left fielder who can hit versus righties, you can play him over there. You can really get some interesting platoon stuff going on, and on the days he doesn't play, he's a pretty solid base stealer off the bench as well, for Mark Quinn. The on-base percentage is low. He doesn't walk at all, so keep that in mind. He's number 4. Number 3 is George Washington at number 3. Pretty heavy splits versus righties. Grading out 2nd offensively, 9th defensively, 5th in batting average, 10th in on-base percentage. Again, a low on-base percentage because there's no walks. And he also doesn't run the bases. But he does hit home runs, number 1 in home runs, number 1 in slugging, and number 1 in OPS. This is a middle-of-the-order bat if you're putting him in your lineup, and he is a seriously good middle-of-the-order bat versus righties. Even though he's not going to walk, he's not going to strike out either. He's still 4th in strikeouts per 600, almost a 300 batting average with over 20 home runs per 600. This is a really solid offensive card, really mediocre defensive right fielder. At number 3. Number 1 in cherry tree removal as well. That's fair. That's valid. Doug Tate comes in at number 2. No home runs here. The opposite of George Washington. Splits pretty heavy versus righties. Moderate splits versus righties, I would say. 3rd in average, 2nd in on-base percentage. Everything else is kind of mediocre. Home runs, he's 8th. Stolen bases, he's 6th. He's number 2 in runs created somehow. 5th in runs and 4th in RBIs for Doug Tate. He's just, you know, pretty close to solid. He's a spray fly ball hitter with his line drives, and so the shifts aren't going to help against him. He's solid defensively. With that 72 arm, he gets some bonus points. He can play left and right field. Do you want to platoon him? Perhaps. It's a decent looking card. I don't think there's any card so far on the list that I'd say you're wrong for playing. And I think this card can probably get it done in a little bit. You know, for some teams where that he fits in. Again, kind of mediocre power numbers, but solid gap power with an okay avoid K for the format. So number 1 is, I don't know, grading out number 1 offensively somehow is Art Griggs. 4th in weighted on base average. 3rd in slugging. 4th in home runs with 18 home runs per 600 plate appearances. Runs the bases, 46 steals with an 82% stolen base percentage. That is really, really good. Number 2 in runs, number 5 in RBIs, number 1 in runs created per 600 plate appearances among right fielders. And again, another mediocre defender, but plays a whole bunch of different positions. Some left field, some first base, some second base. This is the kind of guy that you can get creative with, you know, if you have a position where, because he has really no splits to speak of. So if you have a position where you need a guy that hits versus lefties, you can plug him in there. If you have another position that you need to platoon a guy versus righties, you can plug him in there as well. And he's going to run the bases. Not the best on base percentage at 340, not the best batting average at 277, but all of, you know, 270, there's some formats. Not this one so much, but a 277 average would be good. But he's 8th and 7th. Just a lot of runs created for him. Getting on base and then the steals. Yeah, the steals are really setting him apart just a little bit. And the fact that he's got 20 points an eye on some of the guys that have like the 60 avoid Ks is helping him out a little bit. But just 8th in walks, 10th in strikeouts. So he's going to strike out and walk. Again, the on-base percentage a little bit low at 340. But our number 1 guy, like our number 2 guy's at 362. So it's a 20-point difference between number 2 and him at number 1. For me, I don't know. This is tough, guys. There's a lot of ways you could go with this. You know, if you want to platoon George Washington, there's a lot of ways to go here in right field. So I'm gonna let you guys build your team. Let's talk about the top 20 hitters overall. Doug Tate was number 20. Where was he? He was in right field, right? 362 on base percentage, 295 batting average. Number 19 is Larry Harlow. Number 18 was Darrell Griffith. Number 17 is Jake Bowers. Number 16 is Dustin Ackley. 15 is Dick Cox. 14 is Jesus Alou. We like his offense. Number 13 is Mark Quinn. Number 12 is Hap Myers. We have 90 total qualifying hitters with 601 plate appearances. Orestes Destrade is at number 11. Number 10 is Tommy Thompson. This is straight hitting, no defense. Number 9 is Lance Niekro. Very, very interesting card to me. Number 8 is Gale Hopkins. We didn't see him on a list. 1,300 plate appearances overall. Plays first base. He was down below because of his first base defense, I imagine. Only 70 inches tall. Interesting versus righty splits. 90 avoid K, 73 contact. Number 2 overall batting average and on base percentage for Gale Hopkins with a number 1 weighted on base average overall. Guys, for Gale Hopkins here. This is an interesting looking card to me. He reminds you of Bronze, Rose at Bronze, the bat, then the glove. Yeah, that's fair. This is an interesting card versus righties to me that we didn't see at first base. But overall, number 2 in average and on-base percentage, and number 1 in weighted on-base average. Not a ton of power here, not any base running to speak of. So it's all in that kind of, I mean, this is a solid-looking number 2 hitter, maybe a number 5 or number 6 hitter, depending on what you want out of those guys. 8th overall in runs created per 600. Number 7 is Jorge Bonifacio. Lots of home runs. Number 6 is George Washington. Again, lots of home runs. Number 5 is Termel Sledge. Came in at number 5 overall with that solid 354 weighted on base average. The OPS at 798. 5th overall out of 90 in runs created per 600 for Sledge. Number 4 was Eric Owens. 4th overall in runs created. 3rd in weighted on base average. Number 3 was Steve Balboni, who was number 1 overall in home runs. Number 2 is 73rd overall in batting average and 31st in on-base percentage for Balboni, in case anybody was wondering. Nick Cullip at number 2. Yeah, Southworth's bronze. Very good bronze right fielder. Nick Cullip comes in at number 2, believe it or not. He's number 2 in home runs. 8th in weighted on base average. Number 1 out of 90 batters in OPS for Nick Cullip. Number 6 in runs created. Number 1 in RBIs with 96 RBIs per 600 plate appearances. And your number 1 batter here in your Iron Historical Daily is Art Griggs, of all people. Number 1 in runs created at 93.02. 88 runs per 600. 11th, just outside of the top 10 in home runs at 18. 4th in slugging, 4th in OPS, number 10 in weighted on base average, top 10 in basically and steals bases. Basically top 10 in all of the categories that contribute to your overall offensive numbers according to my formulas right now, which are WOBA, home runs, steals, and runs created. I don't know how he's doing it, but he's doing it. I like Griggs. This is a pretty solid looking card, guys. Pretty solid looking card. I'm going to plug him in here just for future reference for myself. We're not going to go trying to track him down, but just getting it done. Just getting it done. All right, I'm going to take a quick break, go grab a drink, and I'll be back in a couple minutes to do the pitchers. And I hope to see you guys on the there in just a minute. So I'll see you in just a few minutes. Thanks for hanging out with me today, guys. All right, let's get through these. Whoops. Oops. Forgot to shut the door. Let's get through these pictures, shall we? If anyone's looking for interesting copies, Coffee Cult Dark Roast. Interesting. I might have to look it up. Eric Bell comes in at number 15. What is Eric Bell? Eric Bell is a little bit of split towards lefties, which, whatever. 72 fastball, 63 changeup, 74 slider for him with a 72 stamina and an 84 hold runners for him. He's 14th in FIP, 17th in earned run average for Eric Bell. 33rd in whip out of 38 pitchers, however, so keep that in mind. 24th in home runs, top 6 in strikeouts per 9 innings, and 32nd in walks per 9. So kind of a mixed bag here for Bell. He lets up some home runs, he walks some guys. 3.93 is pretty concerning to me from a starting pitcher. Quality start percentage is almost top 10. 53.95% of his starts are quality starts. 54% ground ball percentage, and we can ignore the inherited runner percentage for him because he's a starting pitcher for the most part. But in case you want to use him in the bullpen, his inherited runner percentage is 55%, which is not great. That means that he strands 55%. So almost half of the inherited runners that he's seen have scored. That's pretty bad for a guy out of the bullpen. So you might want to have him in clean innings, perhaps. So just something to keep in mind. He comes in at number 15. Number 14 is Dylan Axelrod with 378 innings pitched. Axelrod is 8th in earned run average, but 26th in FIP. Top 5 in home run suppression, though. 28th in strikeouts and 30th in walks. His 45-49 movement versus lefties and righties is helping him out a little bit. Just a 59 stamina for Axelrod and a 49 hold runners. He is 7th in quality start percentage at 55.93. 27th in ground ball percentage, 32nd in inherited runner percentage at 25%. But that's a pretty small sample size for a guy who's started 95% of the time. It's probably like 4 total inherited runners for Axelrod at this point, averaging 6.1 innings pitched per game. So pretty solid stuff from a length of appearance standpoint. And with a 55% quality start percentage, that's not terrible. So he's a fly ball pitcher, which will hopefully help you with that batting average on balls in play with the really, really atrocious defense that's going on in the whole format right now, especially on the infield. At least in the outfield, you have Tom Oliver or something, right? But Axelrod comes in at number 14. Number 13 is Andrew Werner, who's your 5th most used pitcher in the format right now. Number 7 in FIP, 21st in earned run average for him, 18th in home run suppression, 14th in strikeouts, and 21st in walks per 9 out of 38 qualifiers. Top 5 in ground ball percentage, which is where you're seeing the FIP be a little bit better than his earned run average at that point. Top 20 in quality start percentage, so midpoint, 51.19% quality start percentage, 61% inherited runner percentage for Andrew Werner as well. 23rd in whip for him. He's splits slightly versus righties and stuff, but the movement is a little bit better versus lefties, and the control a little bit better versus lefties as well. He is a left-handed pitcher, one of the few to be up here in this top 10 of most used pitchers. So Werner is, that's something to think about. He is an extreme ground ball pitcher as well. Number 12 is George Smith, who has right at 1,000 innings pitched, exactly 1,000 innings pitched, 66% start percentage. He's our first pitcher to show up on both the points percentage and reward percentage top 20 is George Smith. He's number 9 in FIP, number 16 in earned run average, almost top 10 in whip for him, 17th in home run suppression, 38th in strikeouts. He just does not strike anybody out, but he is 2nd in walks per 9 innings. You're going to want a really solid defense behind him, and so that might be why nobody uses him. 16th in ground ball percentage, 46% quality start percentage is not great. Which is a little sad because his stamina looks like it should hold up a little bit better than that. But there's going to be a lot of balls in play. There's going to be some issues there. Solid inherited runner percentage. It's only a 66% start percentage. which is why you're seeing the innings pitched per game a little bit low. What do we think? Do we think this is a usable card? I don't know. I'm not sold on it, but he comes in at number 12. Number 11 is Charlie Fry, who has 3 points of movement and 2 points of control splits versus righties. He is number 2 in earned run average and number 31 in FIP. That is a very, very large gap between his FIP and his earned run average. Only 28 stamina, 26 hold runners. It's a 94% start percentage with 5 innings pitched per game. Only a 30% quality start percentage, but it seems like that's because he's just on a pitch count. 38th in quality start percentage out of all of them. Somehow that 3.51 ERA. Over the top, 92 velocity, neutral pitcher. The movement, control stuff are all kind of okay. I don't know. Maybe he's on a straight up pitching and defense team. He's on one team probably that has really good defense for Charlie Fry. Number 10 is Bob Sykes, who's going to be number 1 in strikeouts at 7.27. He's 8th overall in FIP, 12th overall in earned run average, 3rd in WHIP for Bob Sykes, 14th in walks, so almost top 10 there. Does let up some home runs, 37th out of 38, that very, very low movement. Even with the lowish control, you're probably going to want to lean towards pitching around with Sykes just a little bit. Good stamina, good hold runners. 48% quality start percentage isn't great, however. 52% ground ball percentage has him 26th, and his inherited runner percentage is right around 50. Over 88% starts. Only 284 innings pitched for Bob Sykes, so small sample size there on him. He's a left-handed pitcher. Number 9 is Steve Nagy, also a left-handed pitcher. Not much of a split here. You got 2 points of stuff versus righties, 2 points of movement versus lefties, 3 points of control versus lefties. He is an extreme fly ball pitcher with pretty decent movement against a format that doesn't have a ton of power. There were, 4 guys who have 20 or more home runs, maybe 5, who have 20 or more home runs per 600 plate appearances. So he's the kind of guy that you can come in, have him not pitch around, and he's going to induce fly ball outs. 29th in WHIP, however, over a 70% start percentage. 16th in quality start percentage at 52. 49 ground ball percentage, below 50% ground ball percentage. There's not a lot of those on this list. 81 stamina, 71 hold, 0.57 home runs is 7th. 26th in strikeouts, 24th in walks. FIP and earned run average, though, getting it done for Steve Nagy, 405 and 410 respectively. Only 4.79 innings pitched per game for him, though. Number 8 is Lee Fund. Splits versus lefties, but not much. It's 1 point of stuff. Actually, his movement and control both split versus righties for Fund. Very low hold runners. Start percentage is 100%. All he does is start. I know that's numbers. It's just because it doesn't fit. It does now. 6th in earned run average, 19th in FIP for Fund. 6th in WHIP as well, 1344. Solid home run suppression. He's 13th, 17th in strikeouts, 25th in walks. So all 3 of those things add up to almost a top 5 WHIP in the format. 53% ground ball percentage is 24th. 53% quality start percentage is 14th. And as expected, has not seen any inherited runners because all he does is start. 622 innings pitched for Fund at number 8. Number 7 is Ariel Prieto, who's going to be number 3 in home run avoidance, but number 5 in FIP, but 434 earned run average for Prieto is not great. That's a pretty big gap too, almost half a run difference between his FIP and his earned run average, over a 60% start percentage. 900 innings pitched for him. He's 16th in strikeouts and 22nd in walks, so top half in both of those. WHIP is 17th. Ground ball percentage is 15th. Quality start percentage, not great at 48%. He's 27th out of 38. And he's top 10 in inherited runner percentage, though. So there you go. Ariel Prieto at number 7. Do any of you like any of these pitchers so far? I don't really like any of them. Number 6 is Clay Buchholz from the 2011 Boston Red Sox. What a sad team. I hope the 2021 team doesn't pull a 2011 Boston Red Sox. But anyway, Buchholz is 13th in FIP. and 7th in earned run average, 7th in whip as well. Top 5 control for Clay Buchholz at 2.43 walks per 9 innings, 32nd in home runs allowed at 0.85, and a 4.83 strikeouts per 9 innings is 21st. Number 3 in ground ball percentage for Buchholz at 60%, but just a 38.89 quality start percentage for him. Again, these rankings are based entirely off of FIP and earned run average. So I don't know how Buchholz ended up this high. But it should be 2 times FIP plus something might have gotten messed up there. We'll see what the rest of the list looks like, and I might have to see what's wrong with our thing. But he is number 6. Number 5. I wonder if I have these backwards. E, G. I might have... No, I don't think so. E, G. 2 times that plus that divided by... Weird. Hold on a second. Give me 1 second. Yeah, everything should be good. Okay. Well, whatever. Auchenko comes in at number 5. 12th in FIP, 4th in earned run average. 0.84 home runs is 28th, 15th in strikeouts, 15th in walks, and 5th in whip for Auchenko. 17th in ground ball percentage, 4th in quality start percentage, almost a 60% quality start percentage for Auchenko. Yeah, that 2011 team was rough. And top 5 in inherited runner scored percentage as well. So Auchenko is a guy who looks like he's getting it done. Pretty solid stuff. The movement isn't quite enough to kill him that badly, and the control's just good enough to keep that FIP from going super high. He comes in at number 5. Number 4, see, that makes a lot more sense. Vic Keane comes in at number 4. High stuff, low movement, but pretty good control for Vic Keane. A 389 FIP and a 373 earned run average is just a 45% start percentage, so keep that in mind. For Keane, only 4.63 innings pitched per game, so he's pretty low on this list as far as guys who pitch a lot of innings. Looks like there might be some follower stuff going on here for him. 50% quality start percentage has him tied for right in the middle of the pack. 50% ground ball percentage, 74% inherited runner percentage for Vic Keane, with a little bit of a split towards righties. 71 stuff. It's 5 points of stuff, 2 points of movement, 1 point of control for the fly ball pitcher. 27 movement for a fly ball pitcher. That's terrifying. 0.91 home runs per 9. He's 36 out of 38, but he doesn't walk anybody, and he's number 2 overall in whip at 1252. Puts him number 4 overall. Vic Keane among pitchers with 4+ innings pitched per game. Number 3 is Chuck James, who is the most used pitcher on our list, is the second pitcher on our list to be on both the points percentage and reward percentage charts, in the top 20 of those down here. 22% of his points in the rewards, 20% of the time for Chuck James. 3,582 innings pitched. 3rd in FIP, 3rd in earned run average, 4th in whip, top 20 in home run avoidance, top 5 in strikeouts, 17th in walks. 33rd in ground ball percentage. He's an extreme fly ball pitcher with just enough movement to keep him from getting hurt too badly. Number 2 in quality start percentage as well. And solid inherited runner percentage at 66.67. 80% start percentage. Good stuff. Movement. Okay control. Just getting it done. Chuck James is your number 3 overall. Number 2 is not on your most used list and has huge splits. 12 points of stuff, 8 points of movement, 2 points of control. Joe Havlik is dropping the number 2 FIP and number 9 earned run average in the format among starting pitchers right now. 86% start percentage, 5.45 innings pitched per game. On a little bit of a pitch count here, it looks like 45% start percentage, top 10 in home run avoidance, 13th in strikeouts, 12th in walks. So when you add all of those things together, he's just about top 10 in those. You thought that was your Discord losing its mind. I don't know. Top 13th in strikeouts, 12th in walks, 9th in home runs. For whatever reason, he's getting a ton. However, I will say that he's going to face basically 63% right-handed pitchers or hitters at this point. If it starts trending more towards switch hitters or more towards left-handed hitters in the format, this is a guy who is going to be extraordinarily hurt by that, I think. He does have the forkball, the changeup, the sinker, the slider. For Joe Havlik, he comes in at number 2, but keep your eye on the batting meta in the format because Havlik is the one guy on the list that I've seen so far that I think could really, really get hurt if we move more towards left-handed hitters. That said, I did not see a lot of left-handed hitters that were any good. So there you go. Number 1 is Barry Lurch. Number 1 in FIP, number 1 in earned run average, a 100% start percentage, small sample size alert on Barry Lurch. 229 innings pitched. He's on only one team right now. 6.37 innings pitched per game. He's starting for somebody. I can see it. 26 stamina is not great. I'm really surprised to see his numbers this high. I really think only one team is using this card right now. And so I don't know that these numbers hold up, but that stuff is good enough that he's going to, strike guys out occasionally. Really, really solid control. And I think this might be pretty close to the highest movement we've seen on the list. 58. Second highest movement we've seen on the list for Barry Lurch. This is a really interesting card to me and one that I've been trying to track down and I haven't been able to. I'm not sold on it being quite this good, but I think it's a pretty solid card for the format. We've seen cards with 26 stamina get away with it down here, and this is one that over a pretty small sample size has been able to do it. 50% ground ball percentage is 30th. Hasn't faced any inherited runners, but number 1 in walks, top 10 in home run suppression. So it doesn't matter if he strikes guys out. It's the card that's just getting it done right now. I think this probably comes up to mid 3s at least. But a pretty interesting card that not a lot of people are using right now. Again, it's probably just one person using him right now. This Barry Lurch card. 16th was Pitlock, who's also on top of both lists. Let's see if we can find some of these guys. Hutchinson was 17, 15th in FIP, 25th in earned run average for Hutchinson. Orville Juergens, who's your 9th most used, is at 18. Roger Craig, who's your 4th most used, is at 19. Max Suzuki, your 2nd most used, is at 20. So you're starting to see where some of those small sample sizes came in at the top, higher up the list there. But some of these more used guys are right here just outside of that top 15. So just something to keep in mind. Galarraga at 21, 2008 Armando Galarraga. And there's Felipe Lira at 22. Ready for relief pitchers? And then let me do the relief pitchers, and then we will go ahead and you guys can hit me up with who you want to see. Innings pitch per game is less than 4. Okay. I got to figure out a macro to do that. Takes some work. Number 15 is Claude Johnard. Over 333 innings pitched. He's 13th in FIP and 16th in earned run average. 2nd in strikeouts per 9 innings. 12th in walks per 9 innings. 32nd out of 34 in home runs per 9 innings for Claude Johnard. 4th in inherited runner percentage. 76% inherited runner percentage stranded. So solid numbers for Johnard there. Number 15 overall, 6th in whip. Next up is number 14, Dave Haas, who's 14th in FIP and 12th in earned run average for Haas. Splits pretty heavy towards righties. You got 8 points of stuff, 4 points of movement. The control is the same. He's a sidearm pitcher. 17th in whip, 23rd in strikeouts, top 10 almost in home runs per 9, and 13th in walks per 9. So another guy that's getting the benefit of the pretty good movement with a pretty okay control as well here in the format. 3rd in quality start percentage among relief pitchers among his 5 starts, or 5% starts. So there you go. Dave Haas at number 14. 13 is Marty Clary. Very good movement, very good control. He's 8th in FIP. He's 17th in earned run average. Doesn't strike anybody out. 3.23 strikeouts, but he's top 5 in home run suppression and top 3 in walk suppression for Marty Clary. He comes in at number 13 overall, but 8th in FIP for him. 2nd in quality start percentage. There you go. 68% quality start percentage. He does get starts. 28% starts, 3 innings pitched per game. So up to you how you want to use him. He can start or relieve. Galarraga can be quite good as long as Jim Joyce isn't around. That's fair. He was pretty good even with Jim Joyce around. It's just number 12. Red Evans comes in at number 12. He's 12th in FIP, 11th in earned run average, top 3 in WHIP, 26th in home run suppression among relief pitchers, 17th in strikeouts, 11th in walks. Good stuff. Pretty good movement and okay control for Evans across the board. 22 stamina, 62 hold runners. He comes in at number 12. Number 11 is Chris George. Very, very good movement here. Home run avoidance. Sadly, the walks are an issue. You're going to want to set him to not pitch around. Not going to strike anybody out, but a 383 FIP and a 318 earned run average for Chris George makes him number 11. Number 10, move into the top 10. Vic Black comes in at number 10. He's 3rd in home run suppression, 13th in strikeouts. Splits a little bit versus righties, which is good. 34th in walks, though. 26 control for Vic Black is positively bad. 34th out of 34 in walks. 5.22 walks per 9 innings is leading to a 385 FIP, but a 311 earned run average because, again, he just doesn't let up any home runs. 0.26 is a really solid number there. 52% ground ball percentage. Hasn't made a single start. 68% inherited runners is almost top 10 out of our 34 relief pitchers. Number 9 is Al Corwin. 66 stuff, 52 movement, 41 control versus righties, 68, 51, 40 versus lefties. Top 10 in both home run suppression and strikeouts. 7th in FIP, 13th in earned run average, 13th in WHIP as well. 28th in walks per 9 innings and top 10 in inherited runner percentage among relief pitchers for Al Corwin. He's a fly ball pitcher. Normal, 93 velocity, 26 stamina, 63 hold, fastball, splitter, changeup, curveball for Al Corwin. Marty Clary is the MVP of cap tourneys. That's fair. Where did we already see him? Yeah, there he was. 48 rated relief pitcher who pitches well. Number 9. Number 8 is Josh Spence, who's going to be number 6 in home run suppression, number 6 in strikeouts, 32 out of 34 in walks, however. 11th in FIP and 7th in earned run average for Josh Spence. 14th in WHIP as well. 49% ground ball percentage is 28th. Not a single quality start for him so far because that 6 stamina is just not very good. Looks like he might be doing some opener stuff for some guys out there. 91, 71, pretty big splits here. So, kind of pretty close to specialist, but I think he can be effective versus righties as well. He's your 8th most used relief pitcher in the format. Number 7 is Byron McLaughlin, who does not show up on your top 10 most used. 370 innings pitched, a 44% start percentage for him. Just over 3 innings pitched per game. He's number 6 in FIP and number 9 in earned run average. Not much of a split, just 2 points of stuff versus lefties and 1 point of movement and 1 point of control versus righties. Top 10 in both home run suppression and strikeouts. 27th in walks for Byron McLaughlin. He's a 47 rated card that is getting it done. He's a fly ball pitcher. I don't necessarily think he would be quite as effective, even though he's a pretty similar rating. Marty Clary's 78 movement really plays up in cap tournaments, I think. And so McLaughlin's 43 movement with a fat fly ball profile is going to be really bad. This is only historical, Mr. Audit. So this is your daily iron historical tournament, which is a 5 diamond pack tournament that kicks off once a day, 64 teams. Just recently added. So I got them to add a historical iron because regular iron is overrun by live cards. And I really wanted to get some of these cards in play. No, you're good. It's all right. You're totally fine. Number 6 is Fute Ni. Your number 9 most used relief pitcher. It's a fun format. There's some fun cards in here, and there's not a lot of super awesome cards in here either. So there's a lot of choices. There's a lot of different strategies you can take to put your team together. Top 5 in earned run average, 9th in FIP for Futeni, 8th in WHIP, top 20 in home run suppression, 18th in strikeouts, but 7th in walks per 9 innings for him. 47% ground ball percentage. Take advantage of that. The batting average on balls in play help. Top 10 in inherited runner percentage for Futeni as well. He comes in at number 6. Number 5 is Esmil Rogers, who is on both the points percentage and rewards percentage top 20s. Slight split versus righties, 62 stuff, 71 movement, 54 control versus a 60, 66, 52 versus lefties. He's top 10 in earned run average, number 4 in FIP, and number 2 in WHIP for Esmil Rogers, a start percentage of 2%. So he gets started here and there. I think it's maybe an opener follower type deal, perhaps, because he's only got 19 stamina. 7th in home runs and top 5 in walk suppression. And so the 20th in strikeouts isn't super concerning to me. Top 10 almost in ground ball percentage. 65% inherited runner percentage, though. So that puts him at 20th. That's a little bit tough. It's a little bit low for a guy. You're going to want him being kind of a specialist and a clean inning kind of guy, maybe a closer, maybe a setup guy, but not necessarily a high leverage guy for Esmil Rogers. Number 4 is Tommy Sisk. Pretty good stuff in movement, pretty good control. He's your 6th most used pitcher in the format. 2nd in FIP, 5th in earned run average for him, 9th in WHIP as well. Top 5 home run suppression, 19th in strikeouts, 18th in walks for him. He's also in the top points percentage and rewards percentage for your team. So you're starting to see, I think the bullpen's a little bit important here in the format. There's, I think we've seen 3 relievers now that are on both the rewards percentage and the points percentage list. 67% inherited runner scored and top 10 ground ball percentage for Tommy Sisk. So take that stat with what you will. Maybe you want ground balls, maybe you don't. But he is a ground ball pitcher. He's number 4. Number 3 is Dick Starr. Huge specialist splits here. 96 stuff versus righties versus 72 versus lefties. He is not unusable versus lefties, but this is a card that will absolutely... What are you doing, you animal? Get off of my stuff. Look at it. First cat sighting of the day. He's been here the whole time. He's just been really well behaved. He's just been sitting here hanging out. So, lazy and bored. Now that the kids are back, I think he gets all the playtime he can spare. 96 stuff, 65 movement, 45 control versus righties is spectacular. 13th in home run avoidance, 5th in strikeouts, 26th in walks, 3rd in FIP, 3rd in ERA, and top 5 in WHIP as well for Dick Starr. 17th in inherited runner. Another guy that you probably want to try to bring in for a clean inning, as opposed to a high leverage kind of guy or something like that. Number 2 is not on the list. Mark McLemore has the number 1 earned run average in the format. 5th in FIP, 7th in WHIP for you guys. Another guy, look at that, both points percentage and rewards percentage list. 2007 relief pitcher, Mark McLemore. Wasn't there a hitter named Mark McLemore at 1.2? 28th in home run suppression, so not great there, but top 5 in strikeouts, 15th in walks at 3.06. Pretty solid ground ball percentage, and number 1 in inherited runner stranded percentage, 79.20. Splits a little bit versus lefties. You got 9 points of stuff, 4 points of movement, and 1 point of control versus lefties. But, Texas second baseman, that's right. You didn't realize the format I was discussing your turning. Yeah, no, the Iron Tournament, it's overrun by lives. Mark McLemore comes in at number 2. A little bit of a small sample size alert here, 235 innings pitched, but it's solid-looking numbers over those 235 innings pitched, although he drops down to like number 5 or number 6 if that ERA and that FIP start compressing just a little bit. So just keep that in mind. He comes in at number 2. Number 1 on your relief pitchers list for your your daily Iron Historical Tournament is, bet nobody saw that coming, Don DeMola, in 323 innings pitched, has a 308 FIP, which is number 1, a 295 earned run average, which is number 2, a 1136 WHIP, which is number 1, 8.69 strikeouts per 9 innings, which is number 1. Does let up some home runs here and there, but is top 5 in walk suppression as well right now. Again, pretty small sample size alert here. It's just 323 innings, but 27th out of 34 in home runs at .75. Nobody else gets on. He doesn't walk anybody. He strikes guys out. He's a fly ball pitcher, so the batting average on balls in play stays down just a little bit. Fastball, changeup, curveball, sinker combination. 11 stamina for him, so he can go multiple innings for you. I'm not sold on it being an awesome card, but over the time that we've seen, he looks pretty good right now because, you know, home runs really aren't a big thing here in the format. Now, that said, I said earlier in the stream, I've seen discussions on the Discord about making this like an era type tournament. And if they do that to like a high home run era, if they change it to an era tournament and it becomes like a high home run kind of era, early 80s or late 90s or like 1927 or something like that, this card becomes scary. The 30 movement is pretty low. That's a little bit concerning. 0.75 home runs per 9 innings you can live with. If that starts going up towards 1 or higher than 1, it becomes a little bit more concerning. But you can pitch around with this guy and get some good work out of him, and he looks pretty good. Let's see where the other guys show up. Cowboy Jones at 16. Where's Ralph Beard? Parker Bridwell at 17. Dwayne Below. Sam Militello. We didn't see Beard, right? I'm not crazy. Where's this guy you guys love so much? Maybe I'm the only one using him. Dwayne Below, Sam Militello, Dave Sells, Kenyon Middleton, Bill McGee at 22, John O'Donohue, Kyle Abbott at 24, Jung Bong at 25, Sean Anderson, 26, Ralph Beard at 27. You guys love that high movement. It is not working out. He is at a 47% start percentage, though, so keep that in mind. That's why he's high up on the list. He gets starting pitching innings. And so as far as like starting pitching numbers, those aren't awful. 422, 414 earned run average. Keep that in mind for a second because I want to look and see how that stacks up. Anderson gets a lot of starts as well. So 407, 443, and 422, 414. So let's switch it back to starters. Greater than or equal to 4. Does anybody remember what those numbers were? I don't. You're looking at probably around the 7 to 12 mark on both of those guys, probably, as far as starting pitchers. So on both Beard and the other guy we just looked at. All right, so hit me up. Who do you want to see? You want to see Chris Benson? Chris Benson. 19 innings pitched for Benson. Hold on one second. Oh, nope. I lost him. Fine, next. Chris Benson, 19 innings pitched. I've got a 605 earned run average over 19 innings pitched. So not great for Benson. 4.65 strikeouts, 4.18 walks. When your walks are almost as high as your strikeouts, that's concerning. 0.46 home runs per 9, 100% start percentage. Looks like 4 starts maybe for him. So not a lot of Chris Benson so far. Anybody else you guys want to see real quick before I go open a couple packs? Yeah, it's pretty ugly, but again, 19 innings, it could be one bad start. It could be like if he had a 1-inning, 7-run start or something. But yeah, 4.5 strikeouts with 4.2 walks is definitely a little bit scary. 1.8 whip is pretty bad too. So nobody else you guys want to see? Let's... Oh, look at that! We won an iron tournament while we were on stream. Doing something right. We'll open those 5 packs with this team. Let's open 40 packs with this team. What say you? 138. If you guys come up with pictures, other pictures that you want to see, let me know. and we'll take a look at them. But for now, we're going to see if we can't improve this team just a little bit. 35 packs. 4 decimals version 2. Billy Southworth, solid bronze right fielder. Very good defense in right field. Gets played a little bit down there. Ginkle gets a little bit of play in open iron these days. I haven't looked at it since last month, so I don't remember off the top of my head. John Hudek, I don't know that I've ever seen that card. Kuzmanov, Tice, Anthony Bemboom. Can I post the bronze list on Discord when I get a chance later? Yeah, so I have to get that updated. I didn't, so I'm going to be totally honest with you guys. I was lazy this week and did not update this sheet to get the list on there. I'm going to try to get that done tomorrow. So I haven't updated, so once I get it updated, I'll update the bronze list. But I have to do that probably tomorrow. Frazier, Cabrera, Dubon. What are you doing, Cat? There's a Nick Madrigal. No longer with the White Sox, now in the Cubs organization. What a weird trade. Not working out so far for the White Sox. That's a sad pack. Silver, Chuck Stobbs. Name game Chuck. Get off of what? Awful cat. Silver, Albert Almora. Very good defense at the silver level. Pretty good contact, too. He gets played a little bit in silver. Also part of the Andrew McCutchen collection. Diamond Aaron Judge. Gross. He probably would have played on this team. Max Stassi up from a 72 to an 81. Everything else in this pack is not great. Jake Diekman, 108 stuff, 36 control. Matt Manning, Alan Trejo, 29 packs left. Here's a Desi Relaford, a Patrick Sandoval. Sandoval gets a little bit of play in bronze these days. Andre Rogers, Bailey Ober, Chris Nelson, and there's a Jeff Mathis. De Slafini, Wilson Ramos, Jacob Webb. Sean Newcomb. Still, I thought he was going to be a monster. I thought he was going to be a fantastic pitcher, and it just never turned out to be. Brent Suter. Bronze friend, bronze relief pitcher. Richard Rodriguez. Solid looking ratings on that live relief pitching card. Guillermo Heredia. 23 packs left. Again, like I mentioned earlier, we're going to be firing the weekly stuff back up. For those of you who missed it early in the stream when I was opening the first set of packs, now that I can download the 128 and 256 team tournaments, we're going to fire my channel back up. I haven't been doing it much lately. It's been busy with work, like my real job, and all that stuff. But in 2 weeks when the season's over, there's a Gil Torres. We saw him get a little bit of use today. We got 2 more homestands left next week and the week after. And then after that, we're going to fire my channel back up and start looking at the weekly tournaments, which I'm pretty excited for because they're a lot of fun. We're going to be focusing on stuff like Spores, stuff like the Silver Snapshots, those era tournaments that have different stats than we get to see in these. And so for those of you who remember, I've got to redo the spreadsheets and stuff. And yeah, And we're also going to look at, we got the 2026 season in the OHBL starting up pretty soon. We're in the off season right now. Free agency started today, so I've got to download that file today and start trying to... There's a Build-A-Legend Tom Glavine. Put that team together for the 2026 season. The Cubs, 2 games out of a playoff spot in 2025. And a lot of players coming into their prime and probably about to get expensive. There's another Build-A-Legend, Mike Piazza. So 2 Build-A-Legends in 3 packs. Start working on those for this team that just hasn't gotten any traction. Still down in iron. I'm pretty happy about that. I was, I missed it, honestly, and then I saw it posted in another Discord channel somewhere. I was like, wait, is this real? And it was real. And I'm really excited about it. A nice Brian Giles mission card. Gatsa still sells pretty well. We'll probably just hang on to him for now. 7 packs left. That pack was bad. Let's get a perfect something today, shall we? Freddie Patek. Decent mission card we'll hold on to. Another Build-A-Legend, Andrew McCutchen. One of my favorite names in the game, Lars Nootbaar. Garrett Whitlock, who has been stellar for the Red Sox this year. Big series going on right now. Oh, I'm missing the Red Sox series for you guys, by the way. Red Sox are playing the Yankees right now. No idea what the score is. Should have had it up in the background. You haven't had a diamond pull in 2 weeks? I'm sorry. We got 2 left. We pulled a Judge. That was it. Michael Wacha, Donovan Solano. Anything good? There is a silver. We got some, we got some pretty good silver. Oh, that'll finish a Los Angeles team mission too. Some pretty good silver stuff. Let's see if we completed any collections. We got a whole bunch. Carl Furillo, 90. Let's just do this for another pack. And then we'll buy 4 more packs with the Judge stuff. We'll unlock McCutchen and then lock McCutchen. Bronze lock, standard pack. Okay. 5 and bronze lock, standard pack. Okay. Silver unlock, mitt. Okay. Silver lock, 2 standard packs. That's 5 more packs. And Piazza, silver lock, yeah. And then we'll buy 4 more packs. What do we got? We ended up with 11 more packs. Something good's gonna come from these last 11 packs. Guys, thanks for hanging out with me today. We're gonna do... Well, there's a diamond. Matt Olson. What do you guys want to do next week? You guys have any input? Hit me up on Discord. Let me know what you're interested in for next week. I'm not sold on anything. All I've been downloading the last week was this stuff. So starting from scratch on something. We did bronze 2 weeks ago, so I don't really want to do bronze again. I can do straight iron, silver, gold, something out there that's fun. Just let me know. Bill Sissel, second baseman, silver. No collection missions. You like silver or gold? Has silver gotten many new cards? There were some new cards in silver. I can start running silver. We'll start that today. Picking up silver cards. McKinstry. I thought he was going to mash. I have to decide. I'm down to 1 spot on my keeper team, and I have to decide whether I want to keep McKinstry or not. Iron. What do I think of weeklies? Low caps, maybe. Weeklies are tough because I'm only going to have 1. I don't have the old data on that stuff. And so, because I updated the spreadsheet, so I don't have the old data in the format I need. So if I do Sporers, like if I get into Sporers tonight and then come look at it next week, then it's literally just 1 tournament worth of data, which is a little bit rough. I'd rather do that on my channel, which is where I do like the quick hour streams and just look at a quick overview of the tournament and stuff. I'd like to save the weeklies for mine. You like the gold 1949? That one I've been collecting data on, and we might be able to do it. Not going to be a ton of data, but our last pack is Austin Nola and Wander Franco. Cool, guys. I think we'll do gold 1949 next week. I think that's what we'll do. So we'll see. 128 teams is like 4 tournaments of best of 732s. That's fair. Sort of. It's not an exact 1-for-1, but I get it. Yeah, I get it. So I'll think about it. I think we're gonna do the gold 1949 though next Tuesday. If I have enough data, it's either gonna be silver or gold 1949 next week. I'm not sure how much data I have on the 1949s right now, but we'll figure it out. Guys, thanks for hanging out with me today. I hope you enjoyed the stream. Hit me up on Discord if you have any feedback. But I got to go because it is almost 2 and I got to pick the kids up soon. So you guys have a fantastic night. Have a great week. I'll see you next Tuesday and then the Tuesday after that. And then the Monday after that will be on my stream. So thanks again, guys. Have a great evening. And go Sox. Bye.